Chapter 1447. In front of the wooden house in the plum blossom forest, Yu Haoran, who had used the method of self-adjustment to get rid of all distracting thoughts, looked at the mud house in front of him with anticipation. After all, when Thaling persuaded him to agree to Qin Yuanjin's second request, he mentioned that Plum Blossom Elder had left behind an opportunity that could help his second avatar become a formation emperor. At the same time, Thaling, who had forcibly dispelled the worries of the ancient demons, also looked at the wooden house with anticipation. Before the end of the Middle Ages, he had heard that Plum Blossom Elder had a fragment of a primordial ultimate treasure. He wanted to see which primordial ultimate treasure had ended up in such a tragic state. Elixir Emperor Yu, can you suppress or take away Plum Blossom's corpse? Even though Plum Blossom Elder had turned into a gloomy skeleton after losing the two ocean-suppressing pearls that kept his body immortal, his terrifying aura of a peak quasi-martial god didn't weaken at all. Therefore, when he saw Yu Haoran looking at the mud house, Qian Bumai, who also wanted to enter the wooden house to look for opportunities, couldn't help but ask, Thaling, can you take Plum Blossom Elder's corpse into the victor? After hearing Qian Bumai's request, Yu Haoran looked at the gloomy skeleton and then discussed with Thaling in his mind. Of course. As he nodded, Thaling directly mobilized the power of Victor and took Plum Blossom Elder's corpse into the Victor easily. Thank you for your help, Elixir Emperor Yu. After losing the terrifying aura of the gloomy skeleton, Qian Bumai appeared in front of Yu Haoran and thanked him emotionally. Senior Bumai, you're welcome. After a simple reply, Yu Haoran walked to the wooden house, and Qian Bumai quickly followed. However, just as Yu Haoran was about to push open the wooden door, Thaling in his mind suddenly stopped him. Yu Haoran, wait. Thaling, what's wrong? Yu Haoran asked in confusion as he retracted his left hand that was about to push the door open. This wooden hut is made of profound gold and greenwood. It can block the divine sense of those below the martial god realm. Therefore, before you know the exact situation inside the hut, you should make sufficient defensive preparations. All right. While nodding in response to Thaling's suggestion, Yu Haoran also turned his head to remind Qian Bumai. Senior Bumai, you and I don't know if there is any danger inside the wooden house. Therefore, before we enter the wooden house, I hope that Senior can make sufficient preparations. Thank you for your reminder, Pil Emperor Yu. After expressing his gratitude, Qian Bumai immediately took out a low-level Exalt Realm defensive magic tool and used all of his origin power and soul power to form a defensive barrier. Yu Haoran also reactivated the defenses of the Ancestral Witch Body and the Rui Bell. After Thaling used his divine sense to set up a defensive barrier, he slowly reached out and pushed open the wooden door. Just as the door was pushed open, an unimaginably sharp sword aura almost tore apart the defensive barrier set up by Thaling's divine sense. Qian Bumai, who couldn't withstand the attack of the sword aura, screamed and was thrown 100 meters away. Senior Bumai, are you all right? Yu Haoran, whose expression changed, appeared 100 meters away in a flash and caught Qian Bumai, who couldn't use his origin power and soul power, in time to ask anxiously. After spitting out 3 mouthfuls of blood, Qian Bumai, whose face was as pale as paper, finally regained his senses. After that, he endured the intense pain from the sword aura that had severely injured his internal organs and said with a bitter smile, Pil Emperor Yu, I'm afraid I can't accompany you into the wooden house. After helping Qian Bumai get into a cross-legged sitting position, he took out 2 third-level, 9th-rank, 7 Treasures Resurrection pills and helped him consume one. Senior Bumai, don't worry. If there are treasures in the wooden house that can increase the cultivation of formations or jade slips, I will definitely leave one for you. Thank you, Pil Emperor Yu. After hearing Yu Haoran's promise, Qian Bumai immediately wanted to thank Yu Haoran. However, the injuries in his body and the damage caused by the residual sword Qi made him spit out a mouthful of blood before he could finish speaking. Senior Bumai, focus on healing your injuries. Don't think too much and don't do too much. Yu Haoran immediately reached out and pressed on his shoulder with concern. After that, he got up and walked back to the wooden door of the wooden house. Looking at the wooden door that had been closed again, he asked Thaling with a serious expression. Thaling, do you know where that sharp sword ore came from? If my guess is correct, it should be one of the 4 immortal slaying sword that was refined by Gigi's 3rd disciple, Immortal Tontan. Thaling said with a slightly sad expression as he carefully recalled the aura of the sharp sword aura. Thaling, it seems that you need to use your victor body to defend. As for the Immortal Tontian and the 4 immortal slaying swords that Thaling had just mentioned, Yuhauran did not have any experience in his previous life, so he did not have any feelings about them. At this moment, he only wanted to enter the wooden house as soon as possible and help his second doppelganger find an opportunity to help him break through to the Formation Emperor level. Therefore, considering that the sharp sword aura just now almost tore apart the defensive barrier that Thaling had set up with his mind, he suggested this. Okay. Nodding, Thaling directly mobilized the power of his victor body to envelop Yuhauran, then indicated that he could open the wooden door. Taking a deep breath, he stretched out his hand and slowly pushed open the wooden door once more. An even more powerful sword aura surged out, as if it could topple mountains and overturn seas. However, in the face of the victor's defense, which did not lose out to the 4 immortal slaying swords in the slightest, the sharp sword aura was like a gentle breeze, not giving Yuhauran the slightest bit of trouble. Stepping into the wooden house and quickly closing the door, Yuhauran began to size up the structure of the wooden house. Simple. This was the truest thought in Yuhauran's mind when he saw the layout of the wooden house. This also made him suspect that Thaling's earlier conjecture might have been wrong. It was very likely that the Plum Blossom Elder was not a member of the Primordial Demon Clan. After all, the records of the Primordial Demon Clan described them as vicious and cruel. They did not understand the ways of the world, and were as crude as monsters. The layout of the wooden house in front of him was clearly that of a secluded expert who had no desires or desires. His suspicions didn't bother him for too long. Yuhauran's gaze was quickly drawn to the 3 treasures placed on the wooden table in the main hall. A jade slip, a miniature chessboard, and the 2-inch-long remnant of a broken sword. The sharp sword aura that filled the entire wooden house came from the 2-inch-long remnant of a broken sword. Walking up to the wooden table, Yuhauran passed through Thaling's inspection. After confirming that there were no mistakes, he reached out and picked up the jade slip, using his mind to read the information within. Chapter 1448. In the Wooden House. 4 Seasons Reincarnation Magic Formation. Once Ji-Hao sent his spiritual power into the jade slip, 6 large characters formed by countless plum blossoms appeared in the space of the jade slip. Next, those plum blossoms began to simulate the process of setting up the 4 Seasons Reincarnation Magic Formation, including the reasons for the changes of the 4 seasons and the principles of setting it up. Thaling, this jade slip records the 4 Seasons Reincarnation Magic Formation created by the Plum Blossom Old Man himself. Yuhauran didn't carefully watch the process of setting up the 4 Seasons Reincarnation Magic Formation. Instead, he quickly withdrew his spiritual power from the jade slip and said to Thaling calmly, "Send it to my second clone. Let him improve his magic formation power with the power of 4 seasons merged with the 4 Seasons Reincarnation Magic Formation." Thaling quickly put away the sadness in his eyes and said to Yuhauran. Nodding, Yuhauran thought of the promise he made to Qianbu Mai before entering the wooden house. Then, he sent the jade slip into Victor's space and said, "Thaling, tell my second clone to copy the contents of the jade slip as soon as possible, so that he can send a copy to Qianbu Mai when he leaves the Qian family." No problem. Thaling agreed on behalf of his second clone when sending the jade slip into Victor's space. After that, Yuhauran turned his eyes to the pocket-sized chessboard placed on the wooden table. This chessboard is called the Exquisite Qi chessboard. It converts the power of nature into a chessboard and converts the power of all living creatures into chess pieces. It can be used to set up all known killing formations. Seeing Yuhauran turn his eyes to the chessboard, Thaling showed a gratified look in his eyes as he introduced the chessboard. Yuhauran, This exquisite chi chessboard is the opportunity for my second clone to break into the level of a magic formation emperor and even become a magic formation deity in the future. Yu Haoran was also very excited about the opportunity for his second clone to break into the level of a magic formation emperor. After sending the exquisite chi chessboard into Victor's space with his spiritual power, he couldn't help but ask, Thaling, with the help of the exquisite chi chessboard, how long will it take for my second clone to break into the level of a magic formation emperor? With my guidance, he will certainly be able to break into the level of a magic formation emperor in 3 months to half a year. After thinking about it for a while, Thaling gave him a time frame for his breakthrough. But then his tone changed, and he said with a smile with a hint of expectation, Of course, if there is a special opportunity, the time taken to advance to Array Emperor might be even shorter. It didn't matter if there were any special opportunities. Half a year's time was enough for him to advance to the Array Emperor realm. Therefore, while Yu Haoran was happy for his clone, he turned his gaze towards the 2-inch-long broken sword. Yu Haoran, give me the remains of the 2-inch-long sword. The sorrow that he had suppressed with great difficulty surged out from his heart. But when he looked at the remains of the broken sword, it could not help but surge out again. The pagoda spirit couldn't help but take the initiative to ask Yu Haoran for help when it recalled the weapon refinement competition in the Middle Ages. No problem. Without any hesitation, Yu Haoran nodded in agreement. After that, he observed the layout of the wooden house. After making sure that he didn't miss anything, he turned around and left the wooden house. Pill Emperor Yu, how's your harvest? Qian Bumai, who had already successfully suppressed his internal injuries with the help of the 7 treasures soul-reviving pill, asked after seeing Yu Haoran leave the wooden house. His eyes were filled with expectation. A jade slip that recorded the 4 seasons reincarnation magic formation and a 2-inch-long broken sword that was releasing a fierce sword power. Facing Qian Bumai's question, Yu Haoran hid the fact that the nimble chessboard could help his clone break into the Array Emperor realm. It wasn't that Yu Haoran was too selfish. The main reason was that the nimble chessboard was too powerful. He didn't want the nimble chessboard to arouse the greed in Qian Bumai's heart, which would make him stand against the Qian family. Only 2 treasures. Hearing Yu Haoran's introduction, the expectation in Qian Bumai's eyes was immediately replaced by disappointment. Elder Bumai, after returning to Anyang Village, I will make a copy of the 4 seasons reincarnation magic formation jade slip, which is exactly the same. I hope it can help you with your magic formation cultivation. Seeing the disappointment in Qian Bumai's eyes, Yu Haoran immediately smiled and comforted him. Of course, as for the 2-inch-long broken sword, I just want to give it to you. I'm afraid that you and the Qian family don't have a spatial magic tool that can withstand the fierce sword power. Thank you so much, Pill Emperor Yu. Making a copy of the jade slip with the complete content was almost the same as giving it to him as a gift. Yu Haoran's action touched Qian Bumai quite a bit. After all, suppressing the 4 seasons reincarnation magic formation, collecting the body of the peak-level demigod Merlin, fending off the fierce sword power, and searching for treasures in the wooden house, he didn't help at all. Therefore, even if Yu Haoran didn't give him anything, he would have nothing to say, neither would he feel dissatisfied. Elder Bumai, how are your injuries? Can you leave the plum blossom forest now? Yu Haoran shook his head, indicating that Qian Bumai didn't need to be polite, and asked with concern. He wanted to leave the plum blossom forest as soon as possible to return to the prince's son-in-law. Then, with the help of the hidden dragon luck and Victor's ability to accelerate time, he would be able to fully accept and digest the inheritance of the 12 ancestral witches' memories before the start of the 5 regions hidden dragon ranking. Yes, as long as he didn't fight with others, with the strong body of a peak revered martial artist, it wouldn't be a problem for him to move freely. Therefore, Qian Bumai nodded in response as he stopped cultivating and stood up. Just as Yu Haoran was about to leave the plum blossom forest with Qian Bumai, Dongfang Huayun and the other 3, who had successfully cracked 2 heaven-rank magic formations, had also successfully arrived at the edge of the plum blossom forest. However, Just as Dongfang Huaiyun was about to study the Four Seasons reincarnation magic formation, an ear-piercing sound broke the air. Along with the sound, a white jade slip and a black formation flag instantly appeared in Ji Hanyu's hands. After quickly reading the contents of the jade slip, a cold glint flashed in Ji Hanyu's eyes as an excited expression appeared on his face. Then, he reminded Dongfang Huaiyun, "Junior sister Huaiyun, please take a few steps back. Senior brother Ji, what are you trying to do?" Seeing the black formation flag in Ji Hanyu's hand, Dongfang Huaiyun asked with an unsightly expression. He had a bad feeling in his heart. Hee. In response to Dongfang Huaiyun's question, Ji Hanyu sneered as he replied, while inserting the black formation flag in his hands at the edge of the plum blossom forest. "I'm going to send you Howren to hell. Ji Hanyu, you're courting death." Just as Ji Hanyu inserted the black formation flag at the edge of the plum blossom forest, Yu Howren, who was leaving the wooden house with Qian Bumai, happened to see it. Although he didn't know what kind of danger the black formation flag would bring, Ji Hanyu's suicidal actions, as well as the intense killing intent that constantly surged in his heart, made him unable to help but shout. Chapter 1449. In the Plum Blossom Forest. Faced with Qian Bumai's heartfelt request, Yu Howren didn't hesitate at all. While speeding towards the edge of the Plum Blossom Forest, he left a message and promised, "Senior Bumai, after this, even if I have to destroy the entire Plum Blossom Forest, I will let you safely return to the Qian family." Looking at Yu Howren, who was rushing towards him, Ji Hanyu didn't panic at all. Instead, a trace of pride appeared in his eyes. When Yu Howren was less than 15 meters away from the Plum Blossom Forest, the black fog that appeared out of nowhere at the edge of the Plum Blossom Forest immediately blocked his line of sight and direction. "Yu Howren, it's too late. Don't rush anymore." Seeing that Yu Howren didn't care about the black fog in front of him and intended to continue rushing forward, Thowling in his mind immediately reminded him. Reluctantly stopping his steps, Yu Howren looked at the black fog that was constantly enveloping him and asked with a gloomy face, "Thowling, what's going on?" Yu Howren, the black formation flag that Ji Hanyu inserted into the Plum Blossom Forest just now was the main formation flag used to set up the strange reversal formation. Glancing at the black fog that was constantly emerging and the plum blossoms that were ceaselessly falling, Thowling explained with a solemn expression, "That black formation flag can not only activate the Four Seasons reincarnation formation in the Plum Blossom Forest, it can also change the original operation of the formation, increasing the power of the entire formation by several times." After hearing Thowling's explanation, Yu Howren's eyes seemed to be able to see through the black fog and see Ji Qiyu at the edge of the Plum Blossom Forest. A strong killing intent emerged in his eyes. However, after only a second, he took a deep breath and forcibly suppressed the strong, killing intent in his heart, then asked Thowling in his mind, "Thowling, how long will it take for you to stop the Four Seasons reincarnation formation?" "It's hard to say." Shaking its head, the Tower Genie explained with a frown, "I need to understand the operating principles of the Four Seasons reincarnation formation first, and then combine them with the changes in the formation's operation to determine how long it will take to stop the formation's operation." Thowling, Ji Hanyu is a contestant of the 5 regions Hidden Dragon ranking anyways. If you want to take revenge, you will have plenty of chances. So don't be too anxious. Slowly look for the flaws in the formation. Hearing the seriousness in Thowling's tone, Yu Howren, who was forcefully suppressing his strong killing intent, calmed down and comforted him. "I got it." Nodding, Thowling summoned his second doppelganger and began to read the information in the jade slip handed over by his second doppelganger. Yu Howren turned around and returned to Qian Buzai's side. Then, he brought him back to the wooden house and solemnly reminded him, "Senior Bumai, I need some time to study the Four Seasons reincarnation formation that was modified by Ji Hanyu, so you should stay in the wooden house and heal your injuries first. I will come back to pick you up after I can completely stop the formation." "Elixir Emperor, you, be careful." Qian Buzai knew that he couldn't be of much help in his injured state, so he could only nod in agreement and remind him with concern, Using the law of speed, Howard arrived in front of the area covered by the black fog. Then, he directly activated the defenses of the ancestral sorcerer's body and the Rui Bell. He planned to personally experience the power of the Four Seasons reincarnation formation that had been modified. As the black fog gradually enveloped his body, Howard felt the changes of warmth, scorching heat, desolation, and coldness of the Four Seasons. The warmth caused his intent to start to dissipate. The scorching heat caused his emotions to start to become irritable. The desolation caused his mood to become depressed. The coldness caused his strength to start to weaken. The four different realms of reincarnation caused Howard's aura to become weaker and weaker. Howard, quickly get out of the area covered by the black fog. Sensing the change in Howard's aura, Thaling, who was experiencing the Four Seasons reincarnation formation, immediately reminded him. However, in response to Thaling's reminder, Howard didn't leave the area covered by the black fog. Instead, he sat down cross-legged and a clear aura gradually rose from his body. Epiphany. Sensing the clear aura that replaced his weakness, Thaling was shocked and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Then, he immediately mobilized his divine thought to control the attacking power of the formation to ensure that Howard could continue to use the black fog to maintain a state of epiphany and avoid being harmed by the formation's power. At the same time, he also needed to continue to observe the changes in the formation through the records in the Jade Slip to find the Four Seasons reincarnation formation that had been modified. All of a sudden, Thaling felt a little helpless. In desperation, he could only ask Howard's two doppelgangers to help. At the edge of the plum blossom forest, seeing the plum blossom forest covered by the black fog, Dongfang Huayun asked with a slightly angry expression, "Senior Marshal Brother Ji, why do you want to harm Shi Xiang and Senior Bumai? Junior Marshal Sister Huayun, please don't misunderstand. It's not that I want to harm Howard. I just have to follow orders." Jihan Yu could see that Dongfang Huayun was suppressing her anger and was afraid that she would misunderstand him. So he quickly explained, "This jade slip contains my father's order to kill Howard." Looking at the jade slip in Jihan Yu's hand, Dongfang Huayun's eyes flashed with a trace of disdain and ridicule. She turned to look at the plum blossom forest covered by the black fog. She planned to use her formation skills to break the formation that had been forcibly opened. In response, not only did Jihan Yu not step forward to stop her, he instead smiled and allowed her to do as she pleased. However, his eyes occasionally flashed with a trace of cold light. The more she observed the plum blossom forest covered by the black fog, the more Dongfang Huayun's brows furrowed. However, when she inadvertently saw the black formation flag condense into a black python with its head down and tail up, a formation flashed through her mind. She couldn't help but take a few steps back in shock and involuntarily yelled. It's the reverse wonder formation that can change the original operation of a formation. Seeing that Dongfang Huayun had used less than 3 minutes to recognize the origin of the black flag array, the eyes of the two formation grandmasters immediately filled with admiration. Jihan Yu, on the other hand, suddenly became nervous. After all, Dongfang Huayun, who was born in a formation family, might have a method to counter the reverse wonder formation. After staring at the black fog that covered the plum blossom forest for nearly 5 minutes, Dongfang Huayun finally shook her head and lightly sighed. She then turned to Jihan Yu and cupped her hands in farewell. "Senior Ji, Huayun is a bit tired. I will return to the clan to rest for the time being." Dongfang Huayun didn't give Jihan Yu any chance to persuade him to stay. He crushed a jade pendant and disappeared from where he stood. Damn it! Seeing that Dongfang Huayun didn't give him any chance to persuade her to stay or explain, Jihan Yu cursed with a gloomy face and gnashed his teeth. Chapter 1450. In the Plum Blossom Forest. Spring, summer, autumn, and winter, the 4 seasons alternating. Reverse the strange door, winter, autumn, summer, and spring. Spring and winter, month and year. Winter and end of spring, year and year. Sitting cross-legged in the plum blossom forest, Yu Haoran's consciousness entered a state of enlightenment. The characteristics of the laws of the four seasons constantly flashed through his mind, as well as the effects and changes the laws of the four seasons had on everything in the world. Half an hour later, as the aura of emptiness gradually disappeared from his body, his tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. He raised his hand and pointed at the black fog in front of him as he softly called out, "Cycle of the four seasons." As he softly called out, a strange energy shot out from his finger and quickly fused with the black fog in front of him. The originally dense black fog gradually became transparent, and a dozen withered plum blossom trees appeared in his line of sight. They regained their vitality at a speed visible to the naked eye. The branches were lush, and countless beautiful plum blossoms bloomed again. It was a scene full of vitality. Cycle of the four seasons. Just as the countless beautiful plum blossoms bloomed once more, Yu Haoran continued to raise his arm. And at the same time, a completely different and strange energy shot out from his finger. Countless plum blossoms from the dozen or so plum trees that had been infused with different energies rapidly fell. The newly revitalized plum trees quickly withered, and the vanished black fog once again enveloped the plum blossom forest. Yu Haoran, why do I feel that the cycle of the four seasons and cycle of the four seasons you just used are very similar to the dual law martial technique of life and death that you've comprehended? Since Yu Haoran's divine sense had been protecting him the entire time, the tower spirit was the first to notice when he woke up from his state of enlightenment. He could not help but frown when he saw the cycle of the four seasons and cycle of the four seasons created by the four laws of spring, summer, autumn, and winter had different effects when they were used. The form is similar, but not the spirit. After hearing Thaling's questioning, Yu Haoran stood up and explained with a faint smile on his face. Moreover, there are fundamental differences between the three law martial techniques. Then he walked forward. The black fog that could have hurt him seemed to have met its nemesis. It retreated and dispersed. Yu Haoran pointed at a plum blossom tree that was as thick as an arm and said as he walked up to the dozen or so trees that had been affected by the two nomological martial techniques. Thaling, if you sense it carefully, you will know the fundamental difference between the laws of the four seasons and the laws of life and death. After hearing Yu Haoran's reminder, Thaling immediately used his divine sense to carefully examine and sense the plum blossom tree. Then, he discovered that the seemingly withered plum blossom tree still contained an extremely vigorous life force in its trunk and roots. As long as it was the warm spring season, the plum tree would be able to blossom into tens of thousands of beautiful plum blossoms. Yu Haoran, what's going on? Thaling asked in confusion. There was no detailed explanation for the time being. Yu Haoran walked out of the plum blossom forest with intense, killing intent churning in his heart. However, he unexpectedly discovered that there was no one outside the plum blossom forest. He knew that Jihan Yu and the others had already left the plum blossom mountain range. He shook his head in disappointment. Then, he turned around and walked to the black formation flag that could activate the Four Seasons reincarnation formation. He pulled it out and sent it into the victor before returning to the plum blossom forest. Yu Haoran quickly walked to the wooden house and saw that Qian Bumai was still sitting cross-legged and circulating his qi. He raised his arm and reminded Thaling, "Pagoda Spirit, I'll show you the difference between the Four Seasons reincarnation and the Four Seasons law martial skill and the life and death law martial skill. Four Seasons reincarnation. Pill Emperor Yu, what are you doing? In the dangerous Four Seasons cycle of reincarnation formation, even if he was circulating his energy to heal himself, Shi Qian still maintained a very high level of vigilance. Thus, when Yu Haoran had just returned to the wooden hut, he had already sensed it. He originally wanted to open his eyes and greet Yu Haoran, but he unexpectedly saw that Yu Haoran was actually using a law of life and death to attack him. Qian Bumai's expression changed, and he instinctively wanted to dodge. However, he was unable to dodge the law of life and death due to his unhealed state. He could only watch as the law of life and death merged into his body. The pain and death that he had imagined did not appear. Instead, a warm and gentle energy, combined with the 7 treasures soul recovery pills' medicinal energy, sped up his recovery. This caused him to feel incredibly shocked, and he looked at Yu Haoran in confusion. So that's how it is. Seeing that the law of life and death was able to accelerate Qian Bumai's recovery, Thowling immediately revealed an expression of understanding. The law of life and death deprives the opponent of their vitality through the rapid alternation between life and death. The law of life and death of the 4 seasons reincarnation formation strengthens the opponent's vitality by accelerating the alternation between time. One is a law of life martial technique used to kill people, while the other is a law of life martial technique used to save people. After sighing, Thowling looked at Yu Haoran through the space in his sea of consciousness. His eyes were filled with gratification and curiosity. Yu Haoran, I'm afraid that in the epiphany just now, you didn't just comprehend the law of life and death of the 4 seasons. You probably also comprehended the law of life related to alchemy. Yu Haoran merely nodded in response. He didn't divulge exactly what the laws he comprehended were related to the Tao of pills. Pill Emperor Yu, what were you doing just now? Qian Bumai felt that the recovery speed in his body was more than 10 times faster than the rank 3 grade 9-7 treasures resurrection pill. This made him feel deeply ashamed and even more puzzled. Senior Bumai, this is the law of life martial technique that I accidentally comprehended when I was deciphering the 4 seasons reincarnation formation. The effect is not bad, right? In response to Qian Bumai's question, Yu Haoran didn't hide anything and explained with a smile. It was just like what Thowling had explained about the law of life and death of the 4 seasons reincarnation formation. Since it was a law of life martial technique used to save people, it couldn't be used as a trump card to turn the tables. Therefore, if he took the initiative to publicize it, it wouldn't have any effect on his own strength other than increasing his reputation. It's not just not bad. When he was deciphering the 4 seasons reincarnation formation, he could feel the law of life. After hearing Yu Haoran's explanation, Qian Bumai's eyes revealed a look of envy. He couldn't help but sigh at the aptitude of the other party. Senior Bumai, the 4 seasons reincarnation formation has stopped operating. Let's leave this place now. Although he had successfully comprehended the law of life and death of the 4 seasons reincarnation formation and death of the 4 seasons reincarnation formation and death of the 4 seasons reincarnation formation had greatly improved his strength, he still had a strong desire to use the blessing of the hidden dragon providence to fully inherit the memory inheritance of the 12 ancestral witches. Chapter 1451. Xianyang City, in the prince's mansion. Time flew by, and 20 days passed in the blink of an eye. Yu Haoran, who was sitting cross-legged in the training room, slowly opened his eyes. A gratified smile appeared on his slightly tired face. After leaving the Merlin mountain range, he declined Qian Bumai's warm invitation and didn't return to the Qian family in Anyang village. Instead, he directly returned to the prince's mansion by tearing the space apart. Since then, he had been staying in the training room, cultivating in seclusion. The inherited memories of the 12 ancient ancestors of Magi were too enormous and complicated. Even with the help of Victor's time acceleration ability, it still took him almost 2 years before he could barely absorb them all. However, absorbing them was one thing. If he wanted to convert the inheritance of the ancestors of Magi into his own strength, he would need a much longer time to cultivate and comprehend. After calculating the time he spent in seclusion, he realized that there were less than 2 days left before the start of the 5 regions Hidden Dragon ranking competition. Considering that the distance between the Hidden Dragon Fortress in the central region and Xianyang City in the southern region was quite far, and that he still needed to understand the major events that happened in the Tianxin continent in the next month, he directly stopped cultivating and walked out of the training room. When he walked out of the training room, he unexpectedly found Qin Lingfei, Yusiki, the sword without trace, Kong Yung-ah, and Lan Exine chatting the pavilion in the courtyard, while Wu Zhengjun was sitting cross-legged on the fake mountain in the courtyard, cultivating. Sister. While greeting her with a smile, Yu Haoran walked towards the pavilion. Senior brother. Hearing Yu Haoran's greeting, Wu Zhengjun, who suddenly opened his eyes, immediately appeared in front of him. Zhengjun, how's the effect of cultivating with the help of the hidden dragon fortune? Yu Haoran asked with satisfaction when he saw that Wu Zhengjun's aura was becoming more and more restrained. His cultivation and strength had obviously improved a lot. Replying to senior brother, my physical body, spirit power, and soul power have all advanced to the peak of 3rd grade martial honorable. Only my mental state is still at the early 1st grade martial honorable. There is no hope of a breakthrough for the time being. Wu Zhengjun explained the results of his closed-door cultivation in detail. Yu Haoran was very satisfied with the advancement of his physical body, origin power, and soul power. However, he couldn't help but frown at the stagnation of his mental state. After finishing his training in the Merlin Mountain Range and returning to the prince's mansion in Xianyang City, he had specially refined a kind of pill for Wu Zhengjun that could help increase his mental state. It was a spirit-breaking purple heart pill of the 2nd rank. It was also with the help of the spirit-breaking purple heart pill that Wu Zhengjun's mental state could be considered to have broken through the bottleneck and smoothly advanced to the early 1st grade martial honorable realm. However, considering that Wu Zhengjun's mental state cultivation had always been his shortcoming and weakness, he didn't keep a single one of the 9 second-tier 1st grade spirit-shattering purple heart pills. He gave all of them to Wu Zhengjun. Could it be that 9-tier 2 spirit-breaking purple heart pills were still unable to substantially increase his mental state cultivation strength? Zhengjun, apart from the spirit-breaking purple heart pill used to break through, how many of the remaining pills did you take? He didn't believe that the effects of the pills he refined would be so poor. Yu Haoran suspected that he didn't continue to take pills after his mental state broke through to the early 1st grade martial honorable realm. Senior brother, I took all of them. Shrugging, Wu Zhengjun replied gloomily. After all, when his senior brother had given him the pills, he had promised that 9-rank 2 grade 1 spirit-breaking purple heart pills could at least guarantee that his mental state cultivation would advance to the peak of grade 2 martial honorable. There was even a possibility that he could break through to grade 3 martial honorable. The result? Fouling, what is going on? Yu Haoran, who was also depressed and puzzled, really couldn't figure out the reason. He could only ask for help from Fouling in his knowledge sea. Tenderness overturning water. When Yu Haoran had refined the spirit-breaking purple heart pill of the 2nd rank, Fouling had personally checked the effects of the pill. It had helped Wu Zhengjun's mental state to reach the peak of the 2nd grade martial honorable realm. It had even predicted that it could break through to the early 3rd grade martial honorable realm. Therefore, when he heard that Wu Zhengjun's mental state hadn't improved at all, he also felt that it was inconceivable. At the same time, he had already begun to secretly check on Wu Zhengjun's situation. Just as Yu Haoran was puzzled by his interrogation, he also happened to discover the real reason why Wu Zhengjun's mental state couldn't improve. Fouling, what does that mean? Hearing Fouling mention the words tenderness overturning water, Yu Haoran didn't quite understand. Yu Haoran, I remember that Zhengjun once met a woman when he was training in the barracks, right? Without immediately answering Yu Haoran's question, Fouling suddenly changed the topic to Wu Zhengjun's cultivation and the opportunity to advance by leaps and bounds. That's right. While nodding his head to confirm Fouling's question, Yu Haoran thought for a moment and added, it seemed to be a young woman around the age of 30. Her cultivation and strength were far stronger than Zhengjun's. Yu Haoran, that woman must have fallen in love with Zhengjun. Then, she used the secret technique created by the ancient divine beasts, the divine dragon and the divine phoenix, to suppress the improvement of his mental state. After receiving confirmation from Yu Haoran, Fouling immediately said with a smile, spilled water can't be taken back. Tenderness overturning water. When Fouling mentioned the secret technique to improve the divine dragon and the divine phoenix, Yu Haoran immediately thought of the secret technique of tenderness overturning water that witnessed the love between the divine dragon and the divine phoenix in the forbidden area of the death swamp in his previous life. That's right, it's the tenderness overturning water that makes up for the lost. Thowling smiled and nodded his head in confirmation. This kid, after receiving confirmation from Thowling, Yu Haoran looked at Wu Jingjun with a look of envy for the first time. The so-called secret technique of tenderness overturning water referred to the person with the stronger cultivation. The person with the stronger cultivation would willingly pass on his or her own understanding of cultivation and life experience to the person he or she loved. Before the secret technique of tenderness overturning water ended, the person who received the inheritance would be greatly limited in his or her own strength. However, at the moment when the secret technique ended, the person who received the inheritance would experience a qualitative and quantitative leap in his or her cultivation and strength in a short period of time. With Wu Zhengjiwen's aptitude, combined with his estimation of the woman's cultivation and strength, he was afraid that when the secret technique of tenderness overturning water ended, Wu Zhengjiwen's cultivation would very likely surpass his in one fell swoop. Moreover, using the secret technique of tenderness overturning water to increase one's cultivation and strength did not have any side effects other than continuing to strengthen one's foundation. How could Yu Haoran not be envious of this? Zhengjun, you must treat that woman well. Don't disappoint her devotion to you and her great willingly sacrifice, Yu Haoran reminded solemnly as he reached out and patted Wu Zhengjuan's shoulder. Then, he directly walked past Wu Zhengjun and walked towards the Wind Pavilion. Chapter 1452. Xianyang City. In the prince's mansion, when Yu Haoran and Wu Zhengjun were talking, they didn't avoid Qin Lingfei and the others in the pavilion. Especially when he spoke to Wu Zhengjun in the tone of an elder, it aroused the interest of everyone in the pavilion. Therefore, as soon as he stepped into the pavilion, Qin Lingfei, who was already filled with the desire for gossip, immediately asked him excitedly, "Prince Consort, who is the woman who is so devoted to Zhengjun? Do we know her?" Yu Haoran chided as he lightly flicked Qin Lingfei's head. "Quickly put away your gossip, and don't ask about things you shouldn't ask." Actually, Qin Lingfei wasn't the only one who wanted to know who that woman was. He also wanted to know where that woman came from. However, with Wu Zhengjuan's taciturn personality, it wasn't easy for him to take the initiative to confess the reason why his cultivation and strength had increased by leaps and bounds with the help of that woman. If he wanted to know more, he would have to take the initiative to say it, or that woman would take the initiative to appear. If you don't want to ask, then don't ask. Why did you have to flick my head? Although Yu Haoran's punishment was only symbolic, it couldn't satisfy the burning desire for gossip in her heart. This caused Qin Lingfei to complain with some dissatisfaction. "Lingfei, sister, Wuhan, Jingya, tell me in detail the results of your cultivation with the help of the hidden dragon fortune." Qin Lingfei complained with dissatisfaction. Then, Yu Haoran stretched out his hand and sat on the stone chair that Lan Xian had stood up for. "Prince Consort, my physical body has already reached the peak of first-grade martial saint. My Yuan Li, soul power, and mental cultivation have all reached the early stage of second-grade martial saint." When Qin Lingfei heard that Yu Haoran was going to check on everyone's recent cultivation results, she quickly dismissed the gossip in her heart and took the lead to introduce them. "Now, with the defense of a 9-star pearl and the attack of the profound Yin Soul Fire, we should be able to display the strength of a peak third-grade martial saint." Not bad. Qin Lingfei's cultivation and strength advancement was more or less as he had expected. Thus, after nodding his head in satisfaction, Yu Haoran looked at Yusiki. "Xiaoran, your physical body broke through the peak of 9th-grade martial saint 7 days ago. Your Yuan Li, soul power, and mental cultivation have just reached the early stage of second-grade martial saint." Seeing that Yu Haoran was looking at her, Yu Haoran's eyes immediately became serious. With the Silver Moon Black Robe's defense and the Cyan Lunar Flames attack, I should be able to display the strength of a peak second-grade martial honorable. It's still lacking a bit. Hearing his sister's cultivation and strength advancement, Yu Haoran shook his head in disappointment. The higher a cultivator's cultivation was, the more important the physical body and the power of laws were. In a fight between cultivators of the same cultivation, the higher the physical body grade, the stronger the cultivator. The weaker the physical body grade, the easier it was for the cultivator to be at a disadvantage. With his sister's peak 9th grade Marshall Saint physical body grade, even the top 100 of the 5 regions' hidden dragon ranking would be in danger. You, Howren, do you remember when your sister joined the Snow Palace? I asked her to look for a mantra called Unmoving Emotions. Seeing that Howren was dissatisfied with the speed of Yusiki's physical body advancement, a trace of hesitation flashed through Thaling's eyes. She was wondering if she should tell Howren the truth. Because of Yusiki's special physique, if she wanted to activate it, she had to cultivate the mantra that was considered a taboo by countless supreme experts in the ancient and Middle Ages. However, if she didn't tell Howren the truth, Yusiki's cultivation speed would become faster and faster due to the influence of her special physique. It would be difficult for her to become a martial god in her lifetime. After much consideration, Thaling finally decided to let Howren decide whether or not to cultivate the Unmoving Emotions mantra. Of course, I remember. The Unmoving Emotions mantra was the key to activating his sister's special physique. How could Howren forget such an important thing? Howren, the Snow Palace's Unmoving Emotions mantra is incomplete. It can only activate 1/3 of your sister's special physique at most. Taking a deep breath, Thaling said in a slightly apologetic tone, "Actually, the complete version of the Unmoving Emotions mantra has always been with me." Why? Thaling obviously had the complete version of the Unmoving Emotions mantra, but he had let his sister take the risk to search for the incomplete mantra. Howren was instantly enraged. However, after nearly 3 years of knowing and being familiar with Thaling, he knew that Thaling must have a special reason for doing so. Therefore, he forcefully suppressed the anger in his heart and tried to keep his tone as calm as possible. Because cultivating the complete version of the Unmoving Emotions mantra has a certain risk. Seeing that Howren wasn't angry at what he had done, Thaling secretly heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly explained. "What kind of risk?" Howren quickly asked. Howren, although the Unmoving Emotions mantra was created by the ancient demon god, the person who truly perfected and improved the mantra was one of the 9 supreme experts in the Middle Ages, the Unmoving Emotions mantra. Thaling, could it be that he was the Unmoving Emotions mantra who killed his parents, killed his brothers, killed his wife, and killed his children? Hearing Thaling mention the Unmoving Emotions mantra of the Middle Ages, Howren immediately thought of a middle-aged man who was tall and straight, with a face as sharp as a sword, and was as cold as frost. Howren, how did you know that he was the Unmoving Emotions mantra who killed his parents, killed his brothers, killed his wife, and killed his children? Hearing Howren mention the Unmoving Emotions mantra, Thaling's expression changed, and a strong murderous intent immediately appeared in his eyes. But then, he took a deep breath, forcibly suppressed the strong murderous intent in his heart, and tried to keep his tone as calm as possible. "Thaling, do you still remember the Phantom of the Bronze Bell when I asked you to refine the wishful bell?" Howren, who didn't notice Thaling's abnormality, reminded him. "It's related to the Bell of Chaos that we fought side by side in ancient times." "How could I forget?" Thaling nodded and replied. "Back then, I saw the phantom of the Bell of Chaos in a palace in the misty forest from a memory of an expert of unknown cultivation before he died." Speaking of this, Howren ignored the doubtful gazes of the people in the Wind Pavilion, got up, walked to the edge of the Wind Pavilion, and then looked in the direction of the eastern region. And that corpse was the Unmoving Emotions mantra who killed his parents, killed his brothers, killed his wife, and killed his children. Impossible. After hearing Howren's explanation, Thaling's first reaction was that it was impossible. Because he had fought with the Unmoving Emotions mantra more than once in the Middle Ages, he was very clear about the strength and means of the Unmoving Emotions mantra. Not to mention that the destruction of heaven and earth in the Middle Ages and recent ages couldn't hurt him. Even if the 8 great masters of the Middle Ages joined forces, they might not be able to kill him. Then, Who was the corpse that Howard saw in the misty forest? Chapter 1453. In the winged pavilion of the prince's mansion. Thowling, since the great oblivion mantra was perfected by the Grand Supreme Sovereign, then the risk you mentioned just now is that the cultivation method of killing one's parents, killing one's brothers, and killing one's wife and children. Howard asked in a serious tone after retracting his gaze from the eastern region and sitting back on the stone chair, looking at his sister who was full of doubts. That's right. Howard's serious tone of questioning woke Thowling up from his speculation about the corpse in the misty forest. Then, while nodding in agreement with Howard's speculation, he began to explain the real reason why he was unwilling to take out the complete version of the Great Oblivion Mantra. It turned out that the complete version of the Great Oblivion Mantra had a total of 4 realms: feeling, emotionless, oblivion, and true emotion, which corresponded to the 4 realms of Emperor Wu, Einherjar, Sovereign, and Immortal respectively. The first realm, feeling, was the easiest to cultivate. This was because family, love, and friendship were indispensable emotions for a person since birth. Falling in love with someone was a matter of course. The second realm, emotionless, was also not difficult to cultivate. Because there was hatred in one's heart, family could be abandoned, love could be cut off, friendship could be abandoned, and family could be completely disregarded. But the third realm, oblivion, was very difficult to cultivate. Because blood was thicker than water, family was not something one could abandon just because one wanted to. Love as deep as the sea was not something one could completely cut off just because one wanted to. Friendship as deep as friendship was not something one could abandon just because one wanted to. The Grand Supreme, on the other hand, killed one's parents, killed one's brothers, and killed one's wife and children to completely cut off family, love, and friendship, thus advancing to the realm of oblivion. As for the last realm, true emotion, it was to return one's feelings to the beginning and return one's Tao to the origin, completely becoming an immortal existence. Although the Grand Supreme Sovereign had successfully perfected the mental cultivation method of the Grand Supreme Indifference, he had not cultivated to the realm of emotion until the end of the Middle Ages. This was enough to show how difficult it was to cultivate to the realm of emotion. The reason why Thowling was unwilling to take the initiative to take out the complete version of the Great Indifference was that he was worried about the effects of ruthless and indifference on Yusiki and Howard. After all, he was very clear about how deep the relationship between Howard and Yusiki was. The sibling relationship could become a stumbling block for Yusiki to advance to a higher realm, and it could also become the reason for the two to completely break up in the future. Thowling, is there no other method in this world that can activate my sister's special constitution other than the Great Indifference Mantra? After hearing Thowling's detailed explanation of the Great Oblivion Mantra, Howard immediately gave up the idea of letting his sister practice it. However, he didn't want to see his sister waste her special physique. Therefore, at the same time, he was unwilling to give up so easily. Howard, the special physique that your sister possesses is ranked second among the thousands of special physiques in the Tianxin continent. It is known as the Heavenly Mark physique. Sensing Howard's unwillingness to give up so easily, Thowling considered for a moment and finally decided to reveal the origin of Yusiki's special physique. Firstly, he also didn't want to see Yusiki ultimately destroyed by her special physique. Secondly, he also hoped that through Yusiki's cultivation of the Great Oblivion Mantra, he could finally find the Grand Supreme Sovereign hidden in the dark. Or more accurately, he hoped to be able to determine whether the Grand Supreme Sovereign was dead or alive. This was because the life and death of the Grand Supreme Sovereign was not only related to the safety of the Bell of Chaos, but also involved the secret of this calamity. Heavenly Mark Physique. In the jade slip that recorded the special physiques in his previous life, the top 10 special physiques were blocked by a special power, so he couldn't see the details of the top 10 special physiques. However, just as Thowling mentioned his sister's Heavenly Mark Physique, the power that was blocked back then suddenly disappeared, and the details of the Heavenly Mark Physique appeared in his mind. The heavenly mark in the heavenly mark referred to the heavenly way, and the mark referred to the traces left behind by the heavenly way when it appeared. In other words, the heavenly mark physique was actually a special physique that was closely related to the heavenly way. After the heavenly mark physique was officially activated, not only would it assist in cultivation at a terrifying speed, but it would also be protected by the heavenly way. As the saying goes, the heavenly way is emotionless, but it is also emotionless. Seeing that Howren understood the origin of the heavenly mark physique, Thowling further added, Howren, rather than saying that the Great Oblivion Mantra was created by the ancient gods and demons and perfected by the Grand Supreme Sovereign in the Middle Ages, it is better to say that it was created and perfected by the heavenly way itself. Otherwise, the Great Oblivion Mantra wouldn't be one of the few immortal cultivation techniques that could surpass the godly state. The heavenly mark physique, the Great Oblivion Mantra that surpassed the godly state, made Howren hesitate. He originally wanted to prevent his sister from practicing the Great Oblivion Mantra. Howren, since you have a special physique that is related to the heavenly way, if you refuse to activate it when you have the opportunity to activate it, it will be considered as going against the heavens. Seeing that Howren began to hesitate, Thowling further reminded him. Therefore, if Siki doesn't activate the heavenly mark physique quickly, not only will her cultivation speed become slower and slower, but the highest achievement in her life will be the Emperor Wu realm, and her lifespan will not exceed 10,000 years. Even if you refine more elixirs to extend her lifespan, it will be useless. Xiaoran, what's wrong with you? Ever since Siki introduced the results of her cultivation, not only did Howren fall into a long period of silence, but his face was also filled with disappointment, shock, grief, unwillingness, hesitation, and other complicated emotions. This made Siki feel very worried. Thowling, do you think my sister can reach the fourth realm of the Great Oblivion Mantra, the Great Oblivion? Seeing the worry in his sister's eyes, Howren's heart was in a mess, and he did not know what to do. He could only hope that Thowling could give him some advice. I don't know. Unfortunately, Thowling did not want to hate each other because of unpredictable things in the future, so he shook his head and replied, Ling Fei, Wu Hin, Jingya, Wan Xan, wait in the Wind Pavilion for a while. Looking up at Qin Ling Fei and the others, Howren instructed his sister, Sister, come with me to the cultivation room. Just as Thowling gave him the right to decide whether to practice the Great Oblivion Mantra, he also decided to give the right to his sister. Chapter 1454. In the training room of the prince's mansion. After sitting cross-legged, Howren looked at his sister, whose appearance and temperament were almost 90% similar to his mother's. He couldn't help but feel deeply moved. In his previous life, his parents' accident had caused his and his sister's life trajectory to change dramatically. His sister had committed suicide after being humiliated, and he had become a stray dog that was precarious. In this life, he had used the explosion of the demon god's tomb to obtain the opportunity to be reborn. When he had the hope to change his and his sister's tragic fate, fate had once again made him stand in front of a painful dilemma. Little Ran, what's wrong with you? Seeing her brother still remain silent after sitting cross-legged, Siki, who had accumulated a stomach full of questions, couldn't help but ask, Sister, do you still remember that when you became a disciple of the Snow Palace, I once asked you to find a mental cultivation method called Supreme Unruffled Emotions? Howren asked with a solemn expression. Of course I remember. Siki nodded and replied, Sister, I actually asked you to find the Great Oblivion mental cultivation method because I wanted to make it your main mental cultivation method. However, later on, I found out about the drawbacks of the Great Oblivion mental cultivation method. After that, Howren told his sister all the information about the Great Oblivion mental cultivation method, including the methods of the Great Supreme Venerate and the special physique that she possessed. After taking the jade slip that recorded the Great Oblivion mental cultivation method from Thowling's hand and placing it in front of Siki, Howren stood up and reminded her with a trace of reluctance as he left the training room. Sister, I hope that you can consider it carefully before deciding whether to cultivate the Great Oblivion mental cultivation method. Looking at the jade slip in front of her, Yusiki fell into deep thought as she recalled what Yuhauran had mentioned about the Great Oblivion mental cultivation method. The Great Supreme venerates actions and the special physique that she possessed. Seeing that Yuhauran had returned to the pavilion in low spirits, Qin Lingfei worriedly asked, "Prince Consort, are you all right?" "Lingfei, don't worry, I'm fine." After squeezing out a smile to comfort Qin Lingfei, Yuhauran looked at the sword without trace. "Junior brother Yu, with the help of the hidden dragon fortune, my physical body grade, mental cultivation, origin power, and soul power have all reached the peak of second grade martial honorable." Although Yuhauran didn't say it directly, the sword without trace knew what he meant. He took the initiative to introduce the results of his training, hoping to make Yuhauran happy. "If I combine this with the sword array that has already been refined by 30%, I should be able to display the strength of a peak 5th grade martial honorable." "Very good." After hearing the results of a sword without trace's training, Yuhauran finally smiled and nodded as he praised. With the strength of a peak 5th grade martial honorable, he could at least be ranked in the top 20 of the 5 regions' hidden dragon ranking. At that time, with the help of the hidden dragon fortune from the southern region and the 5 regions, the sword without trace would reach the peak of 3rd grade martial honorable or even 4th grade martial honorable when he broke through to the martial honorable realm. After praising, Yuhauran looked at Kong Yung-ah. "Yu Shixiang, with the help of the hidden dragon fortune, I am now a peak 3rd grade martial saint." Perhaps it was because the atmosphere had suddenly changed, or perhaps it was because Yuhauran was still in low spirits, but Kong Yung-ah didn't throw a tantrum and obediently introduced. "What about Xiao Feng? Not to mention the 1,000-meter hidden dragon fortune. Even if it was his own 10,000-meter hidden dragon fortune, Kong Yung-ah wouldn't be able to catch up with Qin Lingfei and the others in just a month's time." Therefore, Yuhauran didn't really care about the results of Kong Yung-ah's cultivation and strength. What he really cared about now was Wind-tailed Fox. This was because only by transforming Wind-tailed Fox's grade and strength could Kong Yung-ah's ranking in the 5 regions' hidden dragon ranking. Only then could she continue to receive the help of the hidden dragon fortune and finally catch up with Qin Lingfei and the others in a short period of time. "You mean Xiao Feng?" Hearing Yuhauran mention Wind-tailed Fox, Kong Yung-ah immediately boasted happily. With the help of nearly half of the hidden dragon fortune and the heavenly fox bloodline in the 8-tailed green fox, Xiao Feng not only successfully broke through to the peak of the 2nd grade venerable realm, but also unlocked part of the inheritance of the bloodline ancestor. Speaking of this, she turned her head to look at the sword without trace and said with a hint of pride, "If Xiao Feng and I join forces now, even Sister Wu Hen with the sword formation can't defeat us easily." "Jingya, compared to Xiao Feng's achievements and efforts, don't you feel ashamed at all?" Yuhauran was very satisfied with the improvement of Wind-tailed Fox's grade and strength. However, he was very dissatisfied with Kong Yung-ah's thinking and practice of relying only on Wind-tailed Fox and couldn't help but criticize with a straight face. In response, Kong Yung-ah was unconvinced and wanted to refute, but a wave of power suddenly came from the cultivation room. Yuhauran suddenly stood up and looked at the terrifying power that emerged from the cultivation room. Immediately, a complicated expression of shock, disappointment, sadness, melancholy, hesitation, and other complicated expressions appeared in his eyes. This was because he didn't expect his sister to make the decision to cultivate the Great Oblivion mental cultivation method in such a short time. Was she really willing to give up their sibling relationship? Or was she really confident that she could break through the 4 realms of the Great Oblivion mental cultivation method and finally reach the realm of true love? Embark on the path of oblivion. There's no turning back in this life. Thowling also felt the power of a breakthrough in the cultivation room. He suddenly felt a kind of spiritual relief, as if he had completed a very important task in his missing memory. However, when he saw the complicated expression in Yuhauran's eyes, he sighed and reminded him. Yuhauran, from the moment Siki's thoughts touched the Great Oblivion mental cultivation method, She could no longer turn back and could only continue cultivating. The only thing you could do now is to refine all kinds of pills for her. While helping her quickly increase her cultivation, you can also help her quickly break through the realms of true love, heartless, and oblivion. I understand. Yu Haoran's expression was still serious as he took a deep breath. The power of a breakthrough in cultivation didn't last for very long before it completely calmed down. Then, the door of the cultivation room opened and Yu Siki walked out with a confident smile on her face. Xiao Ran. After greeting Yu Haoran with tenfold gentleness in her eyes, Yu Siki said with incomparable arrogance, "The physical body of a peak first-grade martial honorable, mental cultivation, origin power, and soul power have all advanced to peak second-grade martial honorable." Chapter 1455. Inside the prince's mansion. After hearing Yu Siki's arrogant introduction of her cultivation and strength, Wu Zhenjun, who would not change his expression even if the sky fell and the earth cracked, had a trace of shock in his eyes. Qin Lingfei and Kong Yunga stared at Yu Siki with their mouths wide open. Their eyes were filled with disbelief. After all, just 10 minutes ago, Yu Siki had used the silver moon black robe and green lunar flame that Yu Haoran had given her. She barely had the strength of a peak second-grade martial honorable. But now, her physical body grade, mental state cultivation, yuan qi, and soul power had made small breakthroughs, allowing her to directly cross 4 small realms. Even the 9 revolutions golden pill and Dao source pill, which were known as immortal pills, probably did not have such a heaven-defying effect. Sister, do you really have the confidence to break through the emotionless and unruffled realms and reach the true emotions realm? Yu Haoran wasn't surprised at all by Yu Siki's change in temperament and the rapid increase in her cultivation and strength. He knew how terrifying the sage, unruffled heart sutra was and how powerful the Tian Hen's special physique was. In less than 10 minutes, her strength had increased by 4 small realms. When the 5 regions hidden dragon ranking officially began, her strength would reach the peak of a 7th-grade martial honorable. She might even reach the peak of an 8th-grade martial honorable. After all, the moment she used the sage unruffled heart sutra to activate the Tian Hen's special physique, she would enter the emotionless realm. According to the sage unruffled heart sutra, the emotionless realm corresponded to Emperor Wu. In other words, as long as Yu Siki was willing, she would be able to reach the almighty Emperor Wu realm in a short period of time. Although it was a good thing for her cultivation to increase by leaps and bounds without any side effects, Yu Haoran only wanted to know why his sister had decided to cultivate the sage unruffled heart sutra in such a short period of time. Was it because she had the confidence to advance to the realm of true love? Or was it because of her desire for strength and longevity that she was willing to abandon her blood relationship with her brother? Faced with Yu Haoran's interrogation, Yu Siki instantly withdrew her smile and lowered her head in silence. Sister, I respect your choice. I also hope that you can successfully break through the emotional, emotionless, and unemotional realms and finally reach the immortal realm of emotions. Yu Siki's silence made Yu Haoran feel a burst of heartache. He knew the reason why his sister finally chose to practice the Taishang Emotionless Heart Sutra. She had the confidence to break through the Emotionless Heart Sutra, and she also wanted to cut off the blood ties between them. Little Ran, no matter if it's the emotionless realm or the emotionless realm, you will always be my only family in this world. Being able to feel the heartache in Yu Haoran's blessing, Yu Siki hurriedly raised her head and promised, I can hurt anyone. Even if I have to slaughter all living things, I will never hurt you. In response to Yu Siki's solemn vow, Yu Haoran only nodded with a bitter smile and didn't say anything else. This was because Yu Siki was currently in the Emotionless Heart Sutra. Her blood ties could affect her, but when she reached the Emotionless Heart Sutra, perhaps only the heavens would know if she would still be affected by her blood ties. Afterward, he communicated with A.O. Tian in the beast pet space and made him appear before everyone's eyes. Roar! Accompanied by a pure dragon roar that resounded through the clouds, a 1,000-meter-long winged dragon appeared in the sky above the prince's mansion. At the same time, the 4 dragons at the peak of the 9th level of the Exalted Realm, who had been brought out of the hidden dragon immortal realm, had no choice but to crawl on the ground in submission when they heard the winged dragon's roar. Clearly, they were far stronger than the winged dragon because of the suppression of their bloodlines. That's the winged dragon, a winged dragon with the pure bloodline of a divine dragon. The sword without trace suddenly stood up and cried out in excitement when he saw the winged dragon hovering above the prince's mansion. After hearing the sword without trace's excited cry, Yuhauran immediately ordered the winged dragon with a smile. Ao Tian, take a drop of essence blood and give it to Wu Trace. In his previous life, he had entered the Amethyst Sword Emperor's tomb in the ancient demon tomb. He had learned about the Amethyst Sword Emperor's life and the harsh requirements of the inheritance. He knew that if the sword without trace wanted to obtain the Amethyst Sword Emperor's complete inheritance, he would have to use a drop of the true winged dragon's essence blood to unlock the inheritance sealed in her natal sword. After hearing Yuhauran's order, Ao Tian was a little reluctant, but in the end he obediently spat out a drop of essence blood the size of a longan fruit. Junior brother Yu, thank you. The sword without trace thanked Yuhauran excitedly as he reached out to receive the essence blood. Wu Trace, you don't have to be so courteous with me. After greeting the sword without trace, Yuhauran ordered everyone present. As the darling of the wind, the winged dragon's flying speed is not inferior to wind-tailed foxes at all. So, let the winged dragon bring us to the hidden dragon fortress in the central region. Just as Yuhauran finished his order, Yusiki instantly turned into a white light and appeared on the winged dragon's head. In response, Yuhauran hurriedly used his mind to calm the winged dragon's irritable mood. At the same time, a hint of worry appeared in his eyes. After that, he took a deep breath and reached out to grab Qin Ling's small waist and flew onto the winged dragon's back. After using his mind to mark the route to the hidden dragon fortress in the central region, he directly sat down cross-legged and began to comprehend the staff and fist techniques of the 12 ancient wizards. The location of the 5 regions' hidden dragon ranking competition was held at the hidden dragon fortress in the central region. Therefore, most of the contestants did not leave the hidden dragon fortress after the central region hidden dragon ranking competition ended. They treasured every minute and every second of the hidden dragon providence. Less than a day before the start of the 5 regions' hidden dragon ranking competition, over 20 words suddenly appeared in the sky above the 3rd courtyard in the north of the hidden dragon fortress. Yuhauran, if you're still a man, feel free to challenge the courtyard that I, Huangfu Xiuying, live in. Huangfu Xiuying's blatant provocation immediately caused an uproar in the hidden dragon fortress. In every 5 regions' hidden dragon ranking competition, the contestants from the east, south, west, and north regions rarely took the initiative to challenge the courtyard that the contestants from the central region lived in. Firstly, the strength of the contestants from the central region was far stronger than the contestants from the other 4 regions. If they rashly challenged them, they would most likely be asking for humiliation. Secondly, even if they were strong enough to defeat the contestants who challenged the courtyard, they would still have to bear the revenge of the defeated contestant's backer. After all, the top forces that could truly control the situation in the Tianxian continent were mostly gathered in the central region. Chapter 1456. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress. Huangfu Qiuying's provocation of Yuhauran, the champion of the southern region's hidden dragon ranking, was breaking the unspoken rules that everyone had followed for thousands of years. This immediately made the contestants of the central region unhappy. In particular, the contestants of the 4 regions who had arrived at the hidden dragon fortress ahead of time revealed eagerness in their eyes. The faces of the contestants of the central region instantly darkened. Senior apprentice sister Huangfu, can you please retract the words that are provoking Yuhauran in the courtyard? The lower the ranking of the courtyard, the more worried the contestants of the four regions would be about the provocation. Therefore, the contestant from the 99th courtyard requested with a slightly fawning tone. Sure. Huangfu Chuing's reply to the contestant from the 99th courtyard made most of the contestants of the central region rejoice. However, as Huangfu Chuing changed his tone and made his request, their faces instantly darkened. As long as you can defeat me and become the master of the third courtyard, you can do whatever you want. Junior apprentice sister Huangfu, you've gone too far. Seeing that Huangfu Chuing did not give any face to the contestants of the central region, the contestant from the 9th courtyard threatened with a slightly angry tone. Shang Baijian, Huangfu Chuing, have gone too far. What can you do about it? Huangfu Chuing retorted fearlessly in the face of the threat of the contestant from the 9th courtyard. Huangfu Chuing, don't think that you're the strongest of the younger generation just because you've become the champion of the central region's hidden dragon ranking. Shang Baijian, who was sitting cross-legged on the bed, suddenly stood up in the face of Huangfu Chuing's tough rebuttal. His eyes gradually began to burn with anger as he reminded. If it weren't for the fact that I, senior apprentice sister Meng Ling, senior apprentice sister Feng, senior apprentice brother Yu, senior apprentice brother Bailey, senior apprentice brother Shun, junior apprentice brother Zhu, and junior apprentice brother Xia have all reached the limits of their cultivation and are temporarily unable to obtain too much hidden dragon fate, I'm afraid you wouldn't even be able to squeeze into the top 10 of the ranking. Is that so? Huangfu Chuing, who was sitting in the pavilion of the courtyard, provoked with a disdainful look in her eyes. Since that's the case, why don't we have a real fight and see if I, Huangfu Chuing, deserve to be the champion of the central region's hidden dragon ranking? Huangfu Chuing, you forced me to do this. Hearing Huangfu Chuing's provocation, Shang Baijian immediately rushed out of his room. He was planning on personally teaching Huangfu Chuing a lesson when Zhou Mengling from the second monastery spoke up. Baijian, stand down. Niuing, erase. Yes, senior sister Mengling. After hearing Zhou Mengling's instructions, Shang Baijian respectfully returned to the bedroom with a hint of flattery. Zhou Mengling, who do you think you are? Why should I listen to you? Facing Zhou Mengling's command that left no room for doubt, Huangfu Chuing immediately retorted in dissatisfaction. Because I, Zhou Mengling, am much more powerful than you. Because I can decide if you still have the right to participate in the 5 regions hidden dragon list battle. Sitting cross-legged in the bedroom, Zhou Mengling's expression was indifferent, but her tone revealed the domineering aura of a peerless powerhouse. The champion of the hidden dragon ranking in the central region was actually so insignificant in Zhou Mengling's eyes. While everyone was extremely shocked, they also felt a trace of fear towards Zhou Mengling's strength. As if she had heard the funniest joke in the world, Huangfu Chuing raised her head and laughed as she stood up and walked out of the pavilion. As she abruptly stopped laughing, a terrifying aura rapidly rose from Huangfu Chuing's body. She stared straight at the second courtyard and provoked. Zhou Mengling, I, Huangfu Chuing, have seen many arrogant people, but I have never seen someone as arrogant and ignorant as you in my life. Aren't you able to decide if I, Huangfu Chuing, can continue to participate in the 5 regions hidden dragon list battle? Then come and do it. Facing Huangfu Chuing's provocation, Zhou Mengling slowly stood up and replied indifferently, As you wish. Roar. Just as Zhou Mengling left the bedroom and was about to severely injure Huangfu Chuing, a deafening dragon roar suddenly came from the south of the hidden dragon fortress. Accompanied by the deafening dragon roar, a handsome dragon with a body close to 1,000 meters long and a pair of wings on its back instantly appeared above the courtyard in the north of the hidden dragon fortress. Yinglong. This is a Yinglong with a pure divine dragon bloodline, and also a hidden dragon that can advance to the god realm in the future. Looking at the handsome dragon hovering above the courtyard, no matter if it was the native contestants of the central region or the contestants of the 4 regions, they all shouted excitedly with envy and jealousy in their eyes. Yinglong's roar just now was to remind Yu Haoran that he had safely arrived at the hidden dragon fortress in the central region. Therefore, When Yu Haoran slowly opened his eyes and wanted to carefully observe the hidden dragon list in the central region and the hidden dragon fortress in the south region, he immediately saw the 20 words above the third courtyard provoking him, and then saw Huangfu, Chuing, standing in the courtyard. Yu Haoran couldn't help but sneer at this. He ignored Huangfu Chuing in the third courtyard and looked directly at the ninth courtyard. 9 was his lucky number. No matter who the owner of the ninth courtyard was, no matter how powerful the faction behind him was, he had to obediently give it up. Senior apprentice brother, I'll go. Seeing Yu Haoran's gaze turn to the ninth monastery, Wu Xingjun immediately volunteered. Seeing that Yu Haoran wanted to refuse Wu Zhengjuan's request, the thawing in the sea of consciousness suddenly reminded him. Yu Haoran, the contestant of the ninth courtyard, is only slightly stronger than Xingjun. Although he may lose in the end, there won't be any fatal danger. Why? Yu Haoran asked in confusion. The purpose of challenging the contestant of the ninth courtyard was to obtain the right to live in the ninth courtyard. Since Wu Zhengjun wasn't a match for the other party, then why waste time challenging him? Yu Haoran, if you want to increase the speed of the overturning tenor water, you have to let Wu Zhengjun maintain the speed at which his cultivation base and strength rapidly increase. Fighting against opponents who are only slightly stronger than him is the best way to increase his cultivation base and strength. The tower spirit explained with a smile and asked in return, could it be that you don't want to see who that Zhengjuan's woman is? Be careful. Yu Haoran nodded in agreement without any hesitation at the tower spirit's final question, and he warned, after obtaining Yu Haoran's agreement, Wu Xingjun immediately excitedly took out his blood devourer blade. A terrifying aura surged from his body as he charged toward the ninth courtyard. Chapter 1457. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress. Although Wu Xingjun had taken the initiative to break the unspoken rule that had been maintained for thousands of years, and the reason was very likely to be because of Huangfu Chuing's provocation to Haoran, the first opponent he challenged was himself. Wasn't it obvious that he was looking down on him? This caused Shang Baijian, who had rushed out of his bedroom, to raise his head and reprimand him with an ashen face. Brat, do you know who I am? Ignoring Shang Baijian's reprimand, Wu Zhengjun mobilized all his strength and immediately executed a saber martial technique that he had comprehended during his cultivation. Brat, I am the successor of the Shang clan of the Central Region, Shang Baijian. Even if you're lucky enough to survive today, don't even think about escaping the bloody revenge of my Shang clan. Feeling that Wu Zhengjuan's saber martial technique had reached the peak of peak 5th grade martial saint, Shang Baijian's true strength was not much weaker than his. He immediately threatened Wu Zhengjun with a stern expression. Using his clan's prestige to threaten Wu Zhengjun was not because Shang Baijian was afraid of a battle, but because he did not want to reveal too much of his strength and trump cards before the 5 regions' Hidden Dragon ranking competition. This was because the Hidden Dragon blessing obtained in the 5 regions' Hidden Dragon ranking competition was 100 times more than the Central Region Hidden Dragon ranking competition. In other words, if one could obtain the championship of the 5 regions' Hidden Dragon ranking competition, then the Hidden Dragon blessing would condense into a rainbow dragon body of 999,999 meters long. With the support of such a large amount of Hidden Dragon fate, not only would it allow one's talent and comprehension to surpass their peak, it would also allow one to reach the peak of Grade 7, Grade 8, or even Grade 9 Martial Venerable when breaking through to Martial Venerable. This was also the true reason why the 7 people he had mentioned were preserving their strength in the Central Region Hidden Dragon ranking competition. Originally, Wu Zhengjun only wanted to challenge Wu Zhengjun. However, when he heard that his opponent was a disciple of the Shang clan, a strong killing intent suddenly appeared in his saber technique. Because the previous clan leader of the Shang clan, Shang Jie, had cheated his senior martial brother of a precious second-tier first-grade Emperor pill, he had no choice but to refine a large amount of second-tier first-grade medicinal pills to repay Hua Pao and the other hidden experts in exchange for the treasure of the spirit vein. Shang Baijian's expression changed slightly as he felt the intense killing intent contained within the saber attack. He immediately took out his life-bound sword to counteract the power of the saber attack. Then, he began a fight with Wu Zhengjun. Xiaoran, I've taken a fancy to the second courtyard. Just as Yu Haoran was nervously watching the fight between Wu Zhengjun and Shang Baijian, Yusiki, who was standing on Ao Tian's head, suddenly turned around and said to Yu Haoran. After that, she didn't even give Yu Haoran a chance to speak. She directly charged into the second monastery, unleashing a palm attack that contained traces of heavenly might. Yusiki, what do you think you're doing? During Yu Haoran and Qin Lingfei's wedding, as the groom's only relative, Yusiki had taken the initiative to propose a toast to the wedding guests. As an important guest in the VIP section, Zhou Mingling had even spoken a few words with her. So when she saw Yusiki not only take the initiative to charge into the second courtyard, but also take the initiative to launch a palm attack, Zhou Mingling, who had instantly left her room, shouted with a gloomy expression. In response to Zhou Mingling's shout, Yusiki only lightly laughed and continued to increase the speed of her palm attack. Yusiki, immediately leave the second courtyard. Out of consideration for Yu Haoran, I'll not pursue your previous offense. Waving her sleeve, Zhou Mingling also rose into the air, forcibly suppressing the fury in her heart as she threatened. If you continue to be stubborn, then don't blame me for being merciless. Endless sentiments. In response to Zhou Mingling's threat, a cold light flashed in Yusiki's eyes. She immediately used the palm technique recorded in the sage unruffled emotions mantra. Feeling that the palm technique's power had increased by at least 10 times, Zhou Mingling's expression couldn't help but change. She descended a dozen meters and then fiercely shouted at Yu Haoran. Yu Haoran, this is all because your sister forced me to do this. If anything happens to her, then it has nothing to do with me or the Zhou family. In response to Zhou Mingling's warning, Yu Haoran coldly sneered as he threatened. Zhou Mingling, if my sister is harmed in the slightest, then your Zhou family can forget about obtaining any pills refined by me, Yu Haoran. The reason why he hated and threatened Zhou Mingling had nothing to do with his sister. It was completely because of an Yu Fei, who had secretly used the soul-stealing technique on him. Yu Haoran's blatant threat made Zhou Mingling's expression change. Although she hated Yu Haoran and Yusiki to the core, she couldn't ignore the threat just now. After all, as the ancestors in slumber continued to wake up, the demand for pills refined by Yu Haoran, who was a pill emperor, was becoming more and more important. Zhou Mingling had no choice but to use one of her hidden trump cards, the Heaven Trapping Net, to capture Yusiki alive as her attacks grew fiercer and fiercer. Yu Haoran was very satisfied with Zhou Mingling's method of using the Heaven Trapping Net to trap her sister. She didn't have the slightest intention of harming her. Junior brother Yu, I'm very interested in the third courtyard. Looking back and forth between Yusiki and Wu Zhengjun, the sword without trace revealed an eager look in her eyes. After a brief exchange of glances with Qin Lingfei and Kang Yong'a, she revealed a hint of pleading in her eyes. Be careful, you can't go against the rules. Admit defeat immediately. Realms were just realms. In order to transform realms into true strength, one had to fight with powerful opponents. Therefore, in the face of the sword without trace's request, Yu Haoran thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. Dragons soaring heaven. The moment Yu Haoran nodded in agreement, the life-bound sword that had appeared in Jian Wuhin's hand instantly transformed into a huge silver-white dragon. It roared as it charged towards Huangfu Chuiying, who was standing in the third courtyard. Scram, my opponent is Yu Haoran. Seeing that the opponent who took the initiative to challenge her was actually a woman standing next to Yu Haoran, Huangfu Chuiying shouted angrily. At the same time, her natal sword instantly appeared in her hand and slashed out a sword chi that resembled the Milky Way, blasting towards the silver dragon that was charging towards her. Tell me, who do you intend to challenge? With the protection of the sword formation and the Heaven Trapping Net sword without trace inheritance, even if the sword without trace wasn't Huangfu Chuiying's match, she wouldn't suffer any injuries. Therefore, after withdrawing his gaze from the sword without trace, Yu Haoran looked at Qin Lingfei and Kang Yunga and asked, "Same as my ranking on the Southern Region ranking list. I want to challenge the contestant from the 10th courtyard." Seeing that Yu Haoran wasn't angry at the sword without trace and instead readily agreed, Kang Yunga immediately said excitedly. Chapter 1458. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress. Seeing wind-tailed fox appear on Kang Yunga's shoulder, Yu Haoran immediately put on a smile and pointed at the 10th courtyard. "Little Wind, do you have the confidence to defeat the expert from the 10th courtyard?" After scanning the 10th courtyard with its powerful divine sense, the wind-tailed fox clenched its two small paws and nodded to show that it was 100% confident. "Go ahead." Since he was 100% confident, Yu Haoran did not object and nodded his head in agreement. After getting Yu Haoran's approval, Kang Yunga immediately shouted excitedly and rushed to the 10th courtyard. "The guy from the 10th courtyard, come out and die. A mere third-grade martial saint and dares to provoke me, Shan Jiachang. It seems that you're tired of living." A young man in brown clothes appeared in the courtyard. His eyes flashed with disdain as he looked at Kang Yunga, who was rushing at him. Then, he threw out an unstoppable heavy punch. However, when a giant purple and white tail easily shattered the power of the fist technique and smashed towards Shun Jiachang like a mountain, Shun Jiachang's expression couldn't help but change. Vast moon in the sky. Instantly, he put on his left hand, which was a top-grade Venerable Realm magic glove, and used the heaven-level fist art of the Shun clan's inheritance to condense a round moon with a powerful aura to meet the giant tail. Boom! As the round moon and a mountain-like giant tail collided together, the entire Hidden Dragon Fortress suddenly resounded with a strong roar. Accompanied by the strong roar, the mountain-like giant tail was blown back into the air. Shun Jiachang was forced back 3 steps by the strong rebound force. Damn it! Seeing that the number of giant tails suddenly increased to 3, Shun Jiachang's expression instantly became gloomy and he cursed inwardly. Because he had just used 70% of his strength to display the heaven-level fist art, it could be considered a draw with the giant tails. Now, facing the joint attack of 3 giant tails, not only did he need to use all his strength, he also needed to use 1 or 2 of his trump cards. This would affect the upcoming 5 regions Hidden Dragon ranking battle. Wolf howls at the moon. However, Shun Jiachang didn't have time to think too much or be angry when faced with the 3 enormous tails that were coming at him menacingly. He immediately mobilized all of his origin power and soul power, as well as the power of laws that he had comprehended. He used an even more powerful fist technique to meet the 3 enormous tails. Yu Haoran nodded in satisfaction when he saw that Kang Yunga, who was cooperating with Wind-Tailed Fox, had the absolute advantage against Shun Jiachang. Then, he looked back at Qin Lingfei and asked with a smile, "Lingfei, which individual house's contestant do you intend to challenge?" He was the rightful successor of the Yushu Temple's Heavenly Palace's master, Ji Hanyu's older brother from a different mother. In his past life, he had also had a deep grudge with Ji Wenlong. GAGA. Just as Yu Haoran had chosen his next opponent and was about to activate the Ancestral Shaman's physical strength to display the Ancestral Shaman's inherited fist technique, a strange laughter came from the north of the Hidden Dragon Fortress. Accompanied by the strange laughter, a black-clothed, long-haired youth instantly appeared above the northern monasteries of the Hidden Dragon Fortress. "It's him!" Seeing that the black-clothed, long-haired youth was the champion of the North Region Hidden Dragon rankings, Yu Haoran temporarily stopped, displaying his fist technique, and directly recalled Ao Tian back into the beast pet space. After all, Ao Tian had only been born for a short time. Even with the constant supply of pure energy from the Divine Dragon skeleton, its grade and strength had been advancing by leaps and bounds. However, it had only just reached the early 9th level of the Sage Realm. It simply couldn't withstand the aftermath of the battle between him and the black-clothed, long-haired youth. You surnamed you. Weren't you very arrogant back then? Didn't you want this young demon lord's skull and divine soul? Seeing that Howren had recalled the handsome winged dragon, the black-clothed, long-haired youth's eyes flashed with a hint of envy and jealousy. However, thinking of Howren's disregard and ridicule when the 5 champions gathered, the black-clothed, long-haired youth's eyes immediately flashed with a strong, murderous intent. Now that this young demon lord is here, you can directly make your move. Faced with the black-clothed, long-haired youth's provocation, Howren's expression didn't change. After putting on the supreme-grade Venerable Realm gloves, he directly displayed the ancestral shaman's inherited fist technique, intending to test the strength of the black-clothed, long-haired youth, who was the champion of the North Region Hidden Dragon rankings. However, just as he had just integrated the ancestral shaman's physical strength into his left fist and was about to display a fist technique with the power of a peak 5th-level martial venerable, Ji Wenlong's provocative voice suddenly came from the first monastery. Chapter 1459. In the sky above the hidden dragon fortress in the central region, Ji Wenlong's taunting provocation caused Howren to immediately stop his fist technique. Then, without the slightest hint of anger, Ji Wenlong lowered his head to look at the elegant and extraordinary youth in purple starry robes that had appeared in the courtyard. Wenlong greets junior brother Yuan. Ji Wenlong didn't seem to be used to looking up at others. After flying to the same level as Howren and the black-clothed youth, he cupped his hands and greeted the black-clothed youth. Yuan Haofei greets senior brother Ji. In the face of Ji Wenlong's greeting, even the arrogant black-clothed youth didn't dare to be negligent and immediately returned the greeting. Howren, you're really lucky. After nodding in response to Yuan Haofei's greeting, Ji Wenlong looked at Howren and sighed with a slightly vexed expression. Ji Wenlong, tell your brother Ji Hanyu that if he wants to save his dog life, he'd better immediately kneel down and admit defeat in the arena. Otherwise, not only will you lose your brother, but the master of the Heavenly Palace will also have to send his son off. The reason Ji Wenlong was vexed was that he had successfully broken the Mystic Reversal Formation and the Four Seasons Reincarnation Formation and safely left the Plum Blossom Forest, causing the master of the Heavenly Palace to fail in his plan to kill him. Looking down at the 48th courtyard, Howren's eyes flashed with a trace of cold light. Then, a happy smile appeared on his face, and his tone was full of ridicule. Of course, it's also possible that in your heart, you can't wait for Ji Hanyu to die at the hands of Howren. After all, as the successor of the master of the Yushu Temple, how could you, Ji Wenlong, allow a bastard to taint the pure bloodline of the Ji family? How could you tolerate a piece of trash that can't do anything right and ruin the reputation of the Yushu Temple that has been maintained for hundreds of thousands of years as the head of the top 7 sects in the profound Sky Continent? Howren, shut the hell up. After hearing Howren's ridicule, or rather, his sinister intentions, the flustered and exasperated Ji Wenlong immediately snapped at him. He's anxious and guilty. Facing the exasperated Ji Wenlong, Howren immediately pretended to be shocked and asked in an incredulous tone, "Could it be that I guessed right? You, Ji Wenlong, want Ji Hanyu to die?" Actually, the ridicule towards Ji Wenlong and Ji Hanyu just now wasn't just idle talk. This was because in his previous life, when Howren was hiding from the experts of Hollow Jade Temple, he had overheard the experts sent by Ji Wenlong chatting and learned that Ji Wenlong was intensely dissatisfied and disgusted with Ji Hanyu. He also knew that Ji Wenlong had been scheming to secretly get rid of Ji Hanyu. As expected, he wants me dead. Ji Hanyu, who was hiding from Howren and didn't dare to show his face, muttered to himself with a gloomy expression when he saw Ji Wenlong's flustered and exasperated appearance and the trace of panic in his eyes. Then, Ji Hanyu took out a gray jade slip from his storage ring and continued to mutter to himself while gnashing his teeth. Ji Wenlong, since you were the one who was heartless first, then don't blame me for being unjust as your younger brother." After gnashing his teeth, Ji Hanyu took out a dozen or so blank jade slips and copied the content of each of the gray jade slips into the blank jade slips. "Yu Haoran, don't continue to talk nonsense. If you have the guts, then fight me, Ji Wenlong, to the death." Knowing that he couldn't continue to argue with Yu Haoran, Ji Wenlong instantly took out a top-grade Venerable Stage Chi tool and issued a challenge to Yu Haoran with murderous intent. "I'll satisfy your wish to die." Yu Haoran instantly stopped smiling and retorted with a cold expression. But before he made a move against Ji Wenlong, he turned his head to provoke Yuan Haofei, who was planning to watch the show. "Since I'll kill one or two, you and Yuan Haofei can come at me together." "Brat, how arrogant." Yu Haoran didn't show the slightest bit of fear in the face of the strongest youth in the central region, or rather in the Tianxian continent. Instead, he even challenged Yuan Haofei, the strongest youth in the demonic cultivators generation. This made Ji Wenlong feel like he was being looked down upon and humiliated. After shouting angrily, Ji Wenlong directly used the Yushu Temple's Heavenly Palace Chi tool, which was at the peak of the heaven rank. He condensed a white dragon with the world Jian rule and aimed it at Yu Haoran's vitals. "Yu Haoran, you're courting death." At the same time, Yuan Haofei, who also felt humiliated, roared. The pitch-black supreme rank sword in his hand slashed out a black dragon that emitted a fishy stench. Earth-suppressing fist. Looking at the two black and white dragons charging at him, Yu Haoran fearlessly took a step back and swung out two earth-suppressing fists with his left and right fists at the same time. As a fist technique created by the 12 ancestral witches, the earth-suppressing fist power was enough to shake the entire ancient continent. Yu Haoran, who had inherited the memories of the 12 ancestral witches, had already grasped 1% of the fist technique's essence with the help of the hidden dragon fortune and his amazing comprehension ability. Therefore, just as the mountains formed by the fist technique left his left and right fists, the hidden dragon fortress, which wasn't inferior to a city, suddenly shook. This caused all the contestants who were living in the temporary houses and courtyards to rise into the air. Boom! Boom! Accompanied by two deafening booms, the two mountains formed by the fist technique directly shattered the two black dragons. After that, their power didn't weaken at all as they continued to smash towards Ji Wenlong and Yuan Haofei. Whether it was the white dragon formed by Piao roaming the world, or the black dragon formed by the demonic martial technique, they used almost 80% of Ji Wenlong and Yuan Haofei's strength. Not only were they unable to defeat Yu Haoran after using 80% of their strength, but their combined power was also forcefully broken by the opponent's powerful fist technique. This caused Ji Wenlong and Yuan Haofei's expressions to change. Looking at each other, Ji Wenlong and Yuan Haofei roared at the same time and directly used the more powerful palm technique and sword technique to attack the mountains that were smashing towards them. The attack just now had allowed Yu Haoran to fully understand the results of his secluded cultivation during this period of time. As the corners of his mouth rose slightly, his left and right fists used the second fist technique of the ancestral witch's inheritance. He also comprehended 1% of the essence of the fist breaking the firmament. "Elixir Emperor Yu, please stop." However, just as the fist technique was formed and hadn't really been blasted out, a familiar voice suddenly came from the attic in the central square of the hidden dragon fortress. "Amethyst Elder, what is the meaning of this?" Looking at the purple-robed, middle-aged expert who suddenly appeared in front of Ji Wenlong, Yu Haoran questioned in an unfriendly tone. "Elixir Emperor Yu, don't misunderstand. I have no ill intentions." Chapter 1460. In the sky above the hidden dragon fortress in the central region, seeing Yu Haoran disperse the terrifying fist technique that he had just condensed, the purple-robed middle-aged expert secretly heaved a sigh of relief and hurriedly explained with his divine thought. "Dondi Yu, there are 7 venerables in the hidden dragon fortress in the east, south, west, and central region. They are mainly responsible for presiding over every hidden dragon ranking competition and looking for monstrous geniuses with great potential to join Dondiyu. As the leader of the 5 regions, the 7 venerables in the hidden dragon fortress in the central region are far more powerful than the 7 venerables in the south region. At this point, the purple-robed middle-aged powerhouse turned his head and glanced at the gloomy Ji Wenlong. A trace of dissatisfaction flashed in his eyes as he continued to explain. Dondiyu, among the 7 venerables in the central region, the white-robed venerable was originally a disciple of the Yushu Temple, and the purple venerable was a close friend of the master of the Heavenly Palace. Therefore, in order to prevent you from suffering the same fate as the hidden dragon ranking competition in the south region, I had to put aside my old face and personally intervene to prevent you from killing Ji Wenlong. Thank you, Purple Venerable. After hearing the purple-robed middle-aged expert's explanation through his divine thought, Yu Haoran immediately cupped his hands and thanked him. Then, he looked at the attic in the central square. Originally, due to the purple-robed middle-aged expert's change in attitude and the deal with the hidden dragon destiny, his relationship with Dondi Yu had eased a lot. He even hoped to become close allies in the future. However, the purple-robed venerable and the white-robed venerable in the hidden dragon fortress in the central region had a special relationship with the masters of the Yushu Temple and the Heavenly Palace. Yu Haoran knew that he was likely to be on the opposite side of Dondi Yu Haoran in the future. This made him feel a bit of pressure, and he immediately made 2 important decisions. First, he would let Wu Jingjun, the sword without trace, and Kong Yung-ah refused the purple-robed middle-aged expert's invitation to join Dondi Yu Haoran. Second, from now on, he would refuse to refine elixirs of any grade for anyone in Dondi Yu Haoran, including the purple-robed middle-aged expert who had a good relationship with him. After making up his mind, Yu Haoran looked past the purple-robed middle-aged man and looked at the gloomy Ji Wenlong. His eyes flashed with disdain and mockery before he looked at Yuan Haofei. The purple-robed venerable and white-robed venerable in the central region, hidden dragon fortress in the central region, would not continue to attack Dondi Yu Haoran before the competition to ensure that he could participate in the hidden dragon ranking competition. In that case, the 7 venerables of the hidden dragon fortress would probably not interfere in the killing of Yuan Haofei from the heavenly demon sect. Of the 4 regions alliance of the 4 regions alliance of the Dao alliance. If it weren't for the rules of the hidden dragon rankings, Yuan Haofei probably wouldn't have dared to appear so openly in the central region. Seeing Yu Haoran's murderous gaze, a trace of fear flashed through Yuan Haofei's eyes. However, as one of the top demonic cultivators and the strongest of the younger generation of demonic cultivators, Yuan Haofei's arrogant personality immediately replaced the fear in his eyes with a strong desire to fight. Yu Haoran come. Yuan Haofei, who had mobilized all of his strength and secretly taken out a trump card, took the initiative to provoke Yu Haoran. Yu Haoran had just condensed the power of the fist technique when the tower spirit in his sea of consciousness reminded him to stop again. He frowned and looked up at the void, looking at a white cloud in the void. Yu Haoran's strange actions immediately attracted the attention of the purple-robed middle-aged expert and the 33 top experts in the pavilion. They all used their divine senses to check the white cloud that Yu Haoran was looking at. However, they found nothing. This made the purple-robed middle-aged expert and the 6 purple-robed sovereigns in the pavilion frown at the same time. Who would have thought that the sect master of the Sky Demon sect, Yuan Sangxiong, whose true strength is infinitely close to Emperor Wu's, would be such a treacherous person? After staring at the clouds in the sky for nearly a minute, Yu Haoran suddenly mocked with an indifferent smile. The purple-robed, middle-aged expert's expression changed when he heard Yu Haoran's mocking words. A trace of fear immediately appeared in Yuan Haofei's eyes. The 33 sovereigns in the pavilion appeared above the hidden dragon fortress at the same time. The spirit-converging technique surpasses the heaven-tier martial skill. It can allow the body to completely merge with the void. Just as Yu Haoran's mocking words fell, a man's magnetic voice sounded from the cloud that everyone was looking at. Along with the man's magnetic voice, the white cloud in the void gradually condensed into a middle-aged man in a white robe. He looked 90% similar to Yuan Haofei, but his temperament was stronger and his aura was more powerful. This middle-aged man in white was the sect master of the Sky Demon sect, the strongest expert in the demon sect. He was as famous as the master of the Yushu Temple's Heavenly Palace and the master of the Carefree Valley, Yuan Sangqiong. Yuan Sangqiong's eyes were filled with curiosity as he walked toward the hidden dragon fortress. Little friend, how did you find out that the body was hiding in the white cloud? The so-called early-stage spirit converging technique was created by Demon Emperor Tsangnia in recent times by combining the power of the Void Law. It's not difficult to find the flaws of the spirit converging technique as long as you focus a little and pay attention to the subtle changes in the surrounding environment. Yu Haoran explained indifferently to Yuan Sangqiong's curious question. In fact, it was not as easy and simple to find the flaws of the early-stage spirit converging technique as he had just explained. If it weren't for Yuan Haofei's terrible performance just now, which caused a slight change in Yuan Sangqiong's emotions, and Thaling's divine soul body being restored to the demigod realm, it would have been impossible for him to find Yuan Sangqiong, who was hiding with the spirit converging technique. The people present did not know that there was a demigod realm spirit hidden in Yu Haoran's sea of consciousness. So when they heard his contempt for the early-stage spirit converging technique, their eyes were full of shock. Whether it's talent, comprehension, temperament, or courage, Haofei is like a fluorescent lamp compared to you, little friend. Yuan Sangqiong praised in a gentle tone after the shock in his eyes was quickly replaced by admiration. Senior, you flatter me. Yu Haoran hurriedly cupped his hands and said politely in the face of Yuan Sangqiong's praise. Hearing his father's evaluation of him and Yu Haoran, Yuan Haofei's eyes flashed with strong dissatisfaction and jealousy as he stared at Yu Haoran. Chapter 1461. In the sky above the hidden dragon fortress in the central region, Hall Leader Peng, you're too polite. Compared to his gentle attitude towards Yu Haoran, Yuan Sangqiong's response to Peng Yanfei's greeting was more indifferent. Although Peng Yanfei's expression did not change, he was extremely dissatisfied. When Yuan Haofei saw his father looking at him, his heart couldn't help but tremble. He immediately flew in front of him and bowed in a very nervous manner. Haofei greets father. Sigh. Yuan Sangqiong could not help but sigh as he looked at his son, who was like a mouse that had seen a cat. He tried his best to maintain a gentle tone when he thought of Yu Haoran's confidence when he faced him. Haofei, I originally hoped that you could get into the top 3 in the 5 regions hidden dragon ranking battle. Then, with the help of the huge hidden dragon fate and the demon Dao secret method, you could become a top expert of the heavenly demon sect when your cultivation broke through to the martial venerable realm. However, it seems that I had too high expectations of you and underestimated the young geniuses of the other 4 regions. Yuan Sangqiong glanced at the 4 pairs of contestants who were fighting, then looked at Yu Haoran and Ji Wenlong. He then put away his gentle attitude and demanded with a stern expression. Top 10. This is the lowest ranking I can lower my expectations for. Haofei, if your name is not on the final list of the 5 regions hidden dragon ranking battle, then you don't have to return to the heavenly demon sect in the North region. After threatening Yu Haoran, Yuan Sangqiong's gentleness immediately replaced his stern expression and said to Yu Haoran with a smile, Young friend, it is said that you successfully advanced to the Pill Emperor realm when the hidden dragon ranking battle in the South region ended. I wonder if the news I received is wrong. Senior, the news you received is correct. I have indeed advanced to the Pill Emperor realm. Yu Haoran nodded in acknowledgement. Then, with your current alchemy ability, can you refine the heavenly demon soul attraction pill? After getting confirmation from Yu Haoran, Yuan Sangqiong immediately asked expectantly. Hearing Yuan Sangqiong mention the rank 2 heavenly demon soul attraction pill, Yu Haoran's expression suddenly changed. His eyes were filled with shock as he looked at Yuan Sangqiong. The heavenly demon soul attraction pill was a very special pill. It was used to summon the remnant souls of demonic cultivators from the ancient, middle, and recent ancient times. It seems that Senior's ambition is not small. After the shock, Howard couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. The demonic cultivator's remnant soul not only contained abundant soul power and cultivation comprehension, but also the remnant aura of the power of loss. Yuan Sanxiong probably wanted to directly devour the demonic cultivator's remnant soul when he broke through to Emperor Wu's realm to push his own cultivation to a higher realm. Little friend, you still haven't answered my question. Yuan Sanxiong was not surprised that Yu Haoran could guess his plan to break through to Emperor Wu's realm through the effects of the heavenly demon soul attraction pill. Now, he was only concerned about whether Yu Haoran could refine the rank 2 heavenly demon soul attraction pill. Otherwise, even a perfect plan without a key factor would become a beautiful delusion in the end. Facing Yuan Sanxiong's questioning, Yu Haoran didn't know how to answer for a moment. As a rank 2 heavenly demon soul attraction pill that could summon the remnant souls of demonic cultivators, the refining process was very simple. It was even easier to refine than the rank 3 7 treasures resurrection pill. However, it was also very complicated. It was so complicated that it was not inferior to refining the rank 2 first emperor pill. The reason was that one of the main ingredients, the clear reincarnation fruit, contained a trace of destiny aura that only arcane masters could extract. This trace of destiny aura was the key to summoning the remnant souls of demonic cultivators. Coincidentally, as his arcane master cultivation had just broken through to the Grandmaster realm, he could extract the destiny aura from the clear reincarnation fruit and directly integrate it into the pill. However, Yuan Sanxiong was the sect master of the Sky Demon sect after all. The higher his arcane level and strength, the greater the threat he posed to the other 4 regions. After thinking about it, Yu Haoran finally decided to reject Yuan Sanxiong's request with the reason that he could not refine it. However, before he could reject, Thowling suddenly asked in his mind, Yu Haoran, can you refine the heavenly demon soul attraction pill that Yuan Sanxiong mentioned just now? I'm 90% sure, Yu Haoran replied. After receiving Yu Haoran's confirmation, Thowling immediately requested, agree. Why? Yu Haoran asked in confusion. Yu Haoran, as long as Yuan Sanxiong uses the rank 2, rank 1 heavenly demon soul attraction pill to summon the remnant souls, I have a way to intercept almost half of the remnant souls across the realms, Thowling explained. What can I do with the remnant souls of demonic cultivators? Yu Haoran continued asking. Use a special secret method to strip the remnant power and consciousness of the demonic cultivator from the remnant souls, leaving only the purest soul power and cultivation comprehension. This way, it can help you break through to the Emperor Wu realm as soon as possible, heal me and Victor's injuries, and help my soul recover to the War God realm as soon as possible, Thowling further explained. Senior, this junior is 90% sure that I can refine the rank 2, rank 1 heavenly demon soul attraction pill. Just as Thowling finished explaining the use of the remnant souls of demonic cultivators, Yu Haoran directly nodded in response to Yuan Sanxiong's question. Little friend, since you know the effects of the heavenly demon soul attraction pill, you should also know the importance of this pill to this sovereign. So this sovereign wants to know what makes you so confident. Although Yu Haoran's confirmation made Yuan Sanxiong feel endless ecstasy, as an expert who already had 1 foot in the Emperor Wu realm, his powerful mental state quickly calmed him down and further confirmed. Senior, refining the rank 2, rank 1 heavenly demon soul attraction pill is actually not difficult. The only troublesome part is how to handle the main ingredient, the clear reincarnation fruit. Facing Yuan Sanxiong's further confirmation, Yu Haoran smiled as he used Formula Dao to draw a trace of Destiny Aura. You are not only an arcane master, but also a grandmaster. Yuan Sanxiong couldn't help but exclaim in shock when he sensed the Destiny Aura pulsating from Yu Haoran's fingers. Yu Haoran retracted the Destiny Aura pulsating from his fingers and asked with a smile, Senior, you should believe that this junior can refine the rank 2, rank one heavenly demon soul attraction pill now, right? Little friend, just tell me your request. Yuan Sangxiong nodded, retracting the shock in his eyes and regaining his composure. Senior, according to the rules of alchemy, you'll be the one to provide the medicinal ingredients needed to refine the first-rank second-stage heavenly demon soul attraction pill. Moreover, no matter how many pills are refined in the end, other than the pill I promised you in advance, the remaining pills will all belong to me. Chapter 1462. In the sky above the hidden dragon fortress in the central region. My young friend, judging from your strong aura of righteousness, you obviously practice the most orthodox martial arts. What's the use of keeping the heavenly demon soul-luring elixirs that are suitable for demonic cultivators? Yuan Sangxiong was well aware of the unspoken rules, or to be more precise, the rules of requesting an alchemist to refine elixirs. However, the heavenly demon soul-luring elixirs were too important for the heavenly demon sect to fall into the hands of outsiders, especially the earth demon sect and the Shueisha sect, which were a threat to the heavenly demon sect. Therefore, Yuan Sangxiong tried to persuade him with a smile while using other means to exchange for the remaining heavenly demon soul-luring elixirs from Yu Haoran. So, no matter how many elixirs you can refine in the end, you can give them to me. I'll compensate you enough. Yuan Sangxiong's suggestion of compensation was exactly what Yu Haoran wanted, so he pretended to think for a while and then said with an embarrassed expression, 3 second-level first-grade samsara fruits, 3 second-level first-grade undecaying grass, 9 drops of golden body liquid to help strengthen the body, and 3 drops of dustless water to increase the success rate of refining elixirs. Senior, the above 4 treasures are not only the compensation for the remaining heavenly demon soul-luring elixirs, but also the prize for refining the elixirs for you. After hearing Yu Haoran's request, Yuan Sangxiong complained with a wry smile, My young friend, you're really ruthless. Senior, the overall strength of the heavenly demon sect is not inferior to that of the Yushu Temple. The 4 treasures just now are just a drop in the bucket for you. I've already been very gentle with you. Seeing that Yuan Sangxiong wanted to bargain by complaining, Yu Haoran quickly praised the heavenly demon sect to prevent any possibility of bargaining. Humph! Ignorant junior! Hearing Yu Haoran's comparison between the Yushu Temple and the heavenly demon sect, Ji Wenlong, the son of the master of the heavenly palace, immediately snorted coldly. The white-robed old man standing beside Peng Yinfei mocked in disdain. Senior, it seems that your heavenly demon sect is not as wealthy as this junior had imagined. If that's the case, then let's pretend that this junior never mentioned the conditions just now. The transaction of refining the heavenly demon soul attraction pill also never happened. What kind of person was Yu Haoran? Not only was he narrow-minded, but he was also vengeful. Therefore, after hearing the contemptuous mockery of the white-robed venerable from the hidden dragon fort in the central region, he immediately thought of using the heavenly demon soul attraction pill to threaten Yuan Sangxiong. You're courting death. The heavenly demon soul attraction elixir not only determined whether he would be able to challenge Emperor Wu's cultivation after the 5 regions hidden dragon ranking competition, but it also determined whether he would be able to become one of the 5 emperors in the Battle of Mount Tai 3 years later. Therefore, even though Yuan Sangxiong knew that it was Yu Haoran's plot to kill with a borrowed knife, he had no choice but to be the knife in his hand. Although bloody conflicts were prohibited during the hidden dragon list battle, for a powerhouse like Yuan Sangxiong, he could easily kill his opponent under the restriction of the rules. Sect Master Yuan, please calm down. Seeing that Yuan Sangxiong was about to kill the white-robed old man, Peng Yinfei, who was standing in front of the white-robed old man, immediately stopped him and pleaded, I hope Sect Master Yuan can temporarily let the white-robed venerable off for my sake. Who do you think you are? Why should I give you any face? Yuan Sangxiong scolded and threatened the self-righteous Peng Yinfei without any mercy. Get out of my way immediately, otherwise I don't mind killing you too. You Peng Yanfei was infuriated by the fact that the Hall Master of the World Purification Organization, a peerless expert at the peak of ninth grade martial venerable, and the person in charge of the 5 regions hidden dragon ranking battle, was nothing in Yuan Sangqiong's eyes. However, when he saw the strong killing intent in Yuan Sangqiong's eyes, Peng Yanfei finally chose to retreat out of fear of death. The moment Peng Yanfei chose to retreat, the white-robed old man behind him suddenly screamed, and his breath of life disappeared completely. Peng Yanfei turned to support the white-robed old man's body and ordered the black-robed old man to send the white-robed old man's body back to the attic. Then, he turned to Yu Haoran and gnashed his teeth. Yu Haoran, since Xueqing Yuan can manipulate the rules of the competition, I, Peng Yanfei, can also let you enjoy the treatment of a super luxurious round-robin battle. Hall Leader Peng, please think twice. Hearing Peng Yinyu's threat, Xueqing Yin of the Amethyst Elder of the Southern Region quickly reminded him with a slightly changed expression. Xueqing Yuan, you're just the fort master of the Hidden Dragon Fort in the Southern Region. What right do you have to interfere with my decision? Peng Yinyu immediately scolded Xueqing Yuan angrily. Xueqing Yuan was also speechless in the face of Peng Yanfei's scolding without any regard for their friendship. Coward, you only know how to bully the weak and your fellow sect members. Peng Yinyu's scolding of Xueqing Yuan made Yu Haoran vaguely see the weakness of purification. He immediately sneered for Xueqing Yuan. In the face of Yu Haoran's blatant mockery, Peng Qingyuan's eyes were filled with a strong, murderous intent, and he continued to threaten. Yu Haoran, since Sect Master Yuan can kill the white-robed venerable under the restriction of the rules, I, who directly serves the hidden dragon luck, can also do the same. Peng, it's not that I, Yu Haoran, look down on you, but you want to hurt me with your mediocre skills? Let me give you a piece of advice. Hurry up and go to bed. Not to mention that Yuan Sangqiong would never allow himself to be hurt before successfully refining the heavenly demon soul-attracting pill. Even if Yuan Sangqiong did not intervene, the counterattack of the demigod realm in his sea of consciousness was enough to make Peng Yanfei suffer. Peng Yanfei turned his head to look at Yuan Sangqiong, whose eyes were constantly flashing with a cold light and snorted coldly with a gloomy face. He then flashed back to the attic in the central square, followed by the other 31 venerables. Elixir Emperor Yu, thank you. Yu Haoran had just sneered for him, which made Xueqing Yuan feel very touched. He cupped his hands and thanked him. Yu Haoran waved his hand to indicate that Xueqing Yuan did not need to be so polite. He then cupped his hands and promised Yuan Sangqiong, I'm 90% sure that I can refine 9 heavenly demon soul-attracting pills. All 9 stage 2 first-grade heavenly demon soul-attracting pills belong to you. After hearing Yu Haoran's promise, Yuan Sangqiong was shocked, and the trace of discomfort in his heart immediately disappeared. Chapter 1463. In the sky above the hidden dragon fortress in the central region. The moment the 5 regions hidden dragon ranking competition ends, Yu Haoran immediately gave Yuan Sangqiong the exact time to start refining the elixir. In that case, I'll return to the Heavenly Demon sect to prepare the herbs needed to refine the Heavenly Demon Soul Attraction Pill, as well as the 4 treasures I promised you. After the 5 regions hidden dragon ranking competition ended, it would take 2 to 3 days for the Heavenly Tao to fall into a deep slumber. That would be the best time to break through Emperor Wu's realm. Therefore, Yuan Sangqiong was very satisfied that Yu Haoran gave him the time to refine the pill. At the same time, he was more concerned about Yu Haoran's safety. Senior, I won't see you off. Yu Haoran nodded and cupped his hands. With the deal with Yuan Sangqiong, he could not continue to kill Yuan Haofei. With Peng Yanfei, who wanted to kill him, protecting him, he could not touch Ji Wenlong for the time being. Yu Haoran had no choice but to turn his attention back to the courtyard in the North City to continue watching the challenges of his close friends. Just as he turned his attention to the courtyard in the North City, he heard Xin Jiachong admit defeat from the 10th courtyard. I admit defeat. Shun Jiachong admitted defeat with a pale face as he looked at the giant tail that was less than a meter away from his head and felt the terrifying power contained in the giant tail. Then, he turned his head to look at the courtyard that he had lived in for more than a month and said to Kong Yung-ah with reluctance in his eyes, "Senior sister, the 10th courtyard belongs to you now. I'm not interested in the 10th courtyard at all. You'd better stay by yourself." Kong Yung-ah hurriedly waved her hand in response to Shun Jiachong's reluctance to give up the 10th courtyard. Kong Yung-ah's reply stunned Shun Jiachong. Then, a puzzled look appeared in his eyes. "Since you don't have any interest in the 10th monastery, then why did you challenge me? Shun Jiachong, could it be that you have some enmity with me? Or is it that you don't like me?" After Wind-tailed Fox had shrunk its body and stood behind her shoulder, Kong Yung-ah ignored Shun Jiachong's puzzled eyes and flew directly to Yu Haoran's side. "Senior brother, how did Xiao Feng and I perform? What do you think?" Yu Haoran asked with a faint smile. Although he had been busy dealing with Ji Wenlong and Yuan Haofei's combined attacks, he hadn't been paying attention to the fight in the 10th courtyard. But from Kong Yung-ah's relaxed breathing and the fact that she hadn't used any of her soul power, he could tell who had been the main force. Faced with Yu Haoran's question, Kong Yung-ah immediately glared at him with some displeasure. Then, she lowered her head to watch the fight between the sword without trace and Huang Fu Chuing. Using the Rain Dragon's blood essence to activate the Redbud Sword Emperor's inheritance, the sword without trace made up for her weakness in defense. Combined with the powerful attacks of the sword formation that had been refined to 30%, she wasn't at a disadvantage in the fight against Huang Fu Chuing. On the other hand, Huang Fu Chuing, in a situation where she hadn't achieved anything after a long battle, she became more and more irritable. She didn't hesitate to use an extremely powerful heaven-tier martial skill, which caused her body to become more and more exhausted. Her attacks also revealed more and more flaws. If Huang Fu Chuing couldn't immediately calm down, she, the champion of the Central Region Hidden Dragon rankings, would very likely be defeated by the Sword Without Trace, who didn't have much of a reputation. Seeing that the Sword Without Trace continued to fight calmly, Yu Haoran nodded in satisfaction. Then, he looked at the second courtyard and couldn't help but shake his head with a bitter smile. Although she had used the Great Indifference mantra to activate the Heaven Mark's special physique, allowing her sister to have the strength of a peak 6th grade martial venerable, her disadvantage was becoming more and more obvious when facing Zhou Mengling, who was no weaker than her and had used a trump card. If Zhou Mengling wasn't wary of her threat just now, she would have been heavily injured and defeated. However, with the shrinking range of the Heaven Trapping Net, she would be captured alive by Zhou Mengling in 3 to 5 seconds at most. Therefore, in order to prevent her sister from being captured, Yu Haoran directly shouted at the two people who were fighting, "Sister, Zhou Mengling, stop!" After hearing Yu Haoran's voice, Yu Siki and Zhou Mengling looked at each other and saw the intention to retreat in each other's eyes. They stopped fighting at the same time. "You are very strong, but the next time we fight, I will be even stronger." Yu Siki looked coldly at Zhou Mengling and provoked with a strong desire to battle. "If I can defeat you once, I can defeat you 10 times. So it doesn't matter if you're stronger." Zhou Mengling didn't back down and fought back. Then, she looked up at Yu Haoran, who was floating in the air, and asked, "Are you satisfied?" "Not bad. No matter what Zhou Mengling and Zhou Yu's had done to an Yufei, just based on the fact that she had shown mercy to her sister and even used a trump card to win the championship, Yu Haoran still owed her a favor. Yu Haoran, I hope this is the only time. Otherwise, I, Zhou Mengling, will not show mercy." Yu Haoran's satisfied reply made Zhou Mengling's frosty expression soften a little. However, when she saw the strong desire to battle in Yusiki's eyes, she couldn't help but threaten Yu Haoran angrily. Then, she didn't give Yu Haoran any chance to speak and directly returned to the bedroom in the courtyard. "Xiaoran, give me some 3rd rank 9th grade Vast Spirit pills and Jade Spirit pills." Putting away the strong desire to battle in her eyes, Yusiki appeared in front of Yu Haoran in a flash. Then, she stretched out her hand and asked for pills that could raise her martial venerable realm and strength. Seeing the coldness that flashed in his sister's eyes from time to time, Howard felt a little shocked. At the same time, he obeyed Thaling's instructions and took out 3 pills that could raise one's realm and strength from his storage ring and gave them to Yusiki. After receiving the pills from Howard, Yusiki nodded in satisfaction. Then, she sat down cross-legged in the air and began to raise her realm and strength with the help of the pills. Taking a deep breath, Howard looked at the 56th courtyard. While watching Qin Lingfei fight with her opponent, he began to ask the Thaling in his sea of consciousness why his sister, who had just entered the emotion realm, gave him the feeling that she was about to break through the emotionless realm. Howard, if I'm not wrong, the reason why Siki's cultivation of the Great Oblivion mental cultivation method is so fast is probably related to the accident you encountered back then. It had not even been a day since Yusiki had advanced to the sentient realm, but she was already close to breaking through to the emotionless realm. Yusiki's speed of improvement in the Great Oblivion mental cultivation method also shocked the pagoda spirit. According to the characteristics of the Great Oblivion mental cultivation method, and then combined with Yusiki's physique and character, as well as her life experience from childhood to adulthood, the Thaling finally found the reason for the rapid increase in her realm. Chapter 1464. In the hidden dragon fortress in the central region, the death of both her parents caused her to fall from being a pampered young lady to a lowly servant serving others. Her cultivation was destroyed, causing her to fall from being the pride of the younger generation in Pingyang City to the bottom of the clouds and become the most ordinary person. The change in her status, the humiliation of her clansmen, the bullying of her servants, and the ignorance of her younger brother allowed her to experience the fickleness of human nature and taste the joys and sorrows of life in just over a year. It also allowed her to truly understand what it meant to be sentimental and what it meant to be truly heartless. Sigh. Looking at Yusiki sitting cross-legged in the air, Howard retracted his thoughts and could not help but sigh softly. Thaling, perhaps your conjecture is right. The fact that my sister was able to advance from sentimental to heartless in less than a day is directly related to the accident 4 years ago. Howard, what I'm about to say might make you feel uncomfortable, and it might also be disrespectful to your parents. However, regarding Siki's current state, as well as her future achievements, I must say something. Howard's agreement made Thaling think deeper. However, the deeper meaning was too unfair to Howard. However, if he did not make it clear directly, he would not be able to attract enough attention. On the contrary, it would affect Yusiki's rapid advancement in the future. After thinking about it, Thaling finally decided to make the deeper meaning clear. However, he had to be prepared in advance. Thaling, just say it. Regardless of whether it was comfortable or not, Thaling's intention was definitely for the good of him and his sister. Therefore, Howard directly hinted. Actually, the accident 4 years ago was a good thing for Yusiki. It's not an exaggeration to say that it was an opportunity. Because of the accidental death of her parents, the indifference and humiliation of her clansmen, and the great difference in status, she was able to personally experience what it means to be affectionate, what it means to be heartless, and the change in mentality between affectionate and heartless. Having said that, Thaling secretly observed Howard's reaction. He found that Howard wasn't displeased by his disrespectful words just now. He secretly heaved a sigh of relief and continued. Moreover, without the excessive restraints of her parents and clansmen, she can avoid using the method of the Supreme Sovereign to devour her relatives to advance to the unruffled realm. At the same time, she doesn't have the guilt of killing her loved ones with her own hands, so it won't become an inner demon and a bottleneck for her to reach the realm of love in the future. At this point, Thaling looked at Yusiki, who was rapidly increasing her cultivation base and strength through the knowledge sea. His eyes revealed a trace of excitement as he continued to speak. More importantly, advancing from affectionate to heartless, and from heartless to unruffled, will allow Siki to possess near-invincible strength in a short period of time. This will play a pivotal role in the upcoming disaster that the Tianxian continent is about to face. The accidental death of his parents was a fact, so Yu Haoran didn't feel a trace of discomfort in his heart because of what Thaling had said just now. At the same time, he silently nodded in agreement with the reality that Thaling had mentioned just now. Yu Haoran, while you're increasing your martial cultivation, you must also do your best to increase your alchemy realm with your first clone. This will allow you to provide Siki with the strongest assistance at any time and allow her to advance to the unruffled realm in the shortest time possible. Only in this way can she possibly advance to the final unruffled realm with the help of the great calamity of the world in the future. Thaling, I understand. Yu Haoran, who was very much in agreement with Thaling's plan and request just now, gave a simple response and cast his gaze towards the 56 courtyard. As for his first clone, he used Victor's ability to accelerate time to continue increasing his comprehension of the alchemy realm. In terms of pure cultivation base, the 56 courtyard's contestants were slightly stronger than Qin Lingfei. However, other than cultivation base, strength was also reflected in the magic tools they used, martial skills, secret arts, and so on. With the help of the pure star energy that was unceasingly gathering in the prince's mansion, the 9-star pearl magic tool had already advanced to the middle exalt realm. With the dual enhancement of the blue flood dragon's bloodline aura and peak spirit medicine, the profound Een Soulfire's power had increased by at least 3 times. Thus, with the help of the 9-star pearl magic and the profound Een Soulfire, Qin Lingfei's strength completely surpassed her opponents. However, due to her lack of battle experience, she had to be decisive and hesitant. This caused her to be in a situation where she clearly held the advantage, but she could only fight to a draw with her opponent. Fortunately, Qin Lingfei had gradually realized her own weakness. Relying on the powerful defensive power of the 9-star pearl magic, she was able to gradually reduce her opponent's attack speed and power. At the same time, she was also able to increase her battle experience. Yu Haoran nodded in satisfaction. His gaze returned to Wu Zhengjun and Shang Baijian in the 9th courtyard. Due to his bloodthirsty constitution and his own temperament, although Wu Zhengjun didn't fear death and had even dared to use moves that could defeat both opponents, in front of Shang Baijian, who was slightly stronger than him and had even used his trump cards, not only was he at a complete disadvantage, he was completely suppressed to the point where he had no hope of turning defeat into victory. Thaling, it seems being unable to increase his mental state cultivation base has seriously affected Zhengjuan's strength. Seeing that Wu Zhengjun was completely suppressed, Yu Haoran carefully observed him for a while and sighed regretfully. Although that's the case, the result is still good. Thaling had also been carefully observing for a while and suddenly said happily, "Thaling, could it be that the tenderness technique is about to be perfected?" Thaling's inexplicable happiness made Yu Haoran suddenly think of a possibility. He hurriedly asked in surprise, "If it's short, it'll be 3 hours. If it's long, it'll be half a day." The tenderness technique's reverse nurturing will cause Zhengjuan's realm and strength to undergo a complete transformation. While nodding to confirm Yu Haoran's guess, Thaling turned his head to look in the direction of the central plaza. His tone carried a trace of ridicule as he spoke. "Moreover, you'll soon be able to see the woman who likes Zhengjun, this silly boy." "Really?" Yu Haoran asked with even more surprise. "That's right," Thaling confirmed with a nod. Originally, Yu Haoran had wanted to continue asking about Wu Zhengjun and that woman. However, as Shang Baijian had secretly used the 1,000 feet black spider's poison to use his trump card secret technique, Yu Haoran's expression couldn't help but change. "Zhengjun, admit defeat immediately." Wu Zhengjun, who hadn't realized that Shang Baijian had used a sinister method, didn't listen to Yu Haoran's warning because he was unwilling to accept his defeat. He continued to use his saber technique, causing Shang Baijian's poison to successfully enter his body. "Zhengjun, immediately take the antidote and admit defeat." Chapter 1465. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Citadel, Ninth Courtyard. The sudden dizziness and his senior apprentice brother's urgent warning made Wu Zhengjun realize that he had fallen into his opponent's trap. I admit defeat. His rich battle experience made him choose to admit defeat first, giving his senior apprentice brother a chance to help. Only then did Wu Zhengjun plan to take out the antidote pill from his spatial ring. But Shang Baijian, who clearly wanted to kill him, didn't care about him admitting defeat at all. Taking advantage of the fact that he was temporarily unable to resist due to the poison, he heavily punched towards his head. Boom! PFFF. Following an intense explosion, Shang Baijian continuously retreated, spitting out 3 mouthfuls of blood. Hurry up and take it. After taking out the antidote pill beforehand for Wu Zhengjun, Yu Haoran immediately looked at Shang Baijian with intense killing intent. Secretly using the 1,000-feet black spider's poison, Yu Haoran could only sigh at Shang Baijian's treachery, but he wouldn't blame him for it, because this was a method permitted by the rules of the challenge. The only reason for his killing intent was that even though Wu Zhengjun had clearly admitted defeat, Shang Baijian still didn't stop attacking. This clearly violated the rules of the Hidden Dragon Karmic Luck. In a situation where he clearly violated the rules of the challenge, he didn't receive any punishment from the Hidden Dragon Karmic Luck. This meant that someone was secretly influencing the judgment of the rules. And that person didn't even need to think too much. It was definitely Peng Yanfei who wanted to kill him. Peng Yanfei not only wanted to kill him, but also used the rules of the challenge to get rid of his close friends and family. So the intense killing intent in Yu Haoran's eyes was aimed at both Shang Baijian and Peng Yanfei. Surnamed you, what are you doing? Shang Baijian immediately took a healing pill and shouted with a gloomy expression. At the same time, a trace of fear flashed through his eyes. Although he didn't use his full strength when he killed Wu Zhengjun with his heavy punch, Yu Haoran, who had rushed to rescue him, couldn't use more strength. In this kind of situation, he had vomited blood and retreated, while Yu Haoran hadn't moved at all. The difference in strength was obvious at a glance. Either scram or die. Faced with Shang Baijian's rebuke, Yu Haoran's expression was cold as he shouted back. Do you dare kill me? Do you think you can kill me? Facing Yu Haoran's rebuke, Shang Baijian's eyes were filled with disdain. Looks like you've already made the choice to die. Yu Haoran quickly activated the power of the ancestral witch's physical body. Combined with the circulating origin power and soul power, Yu Haoran coldly responded to Shang Baijian's mockery while displaying the ancestral witch's inherited fist technique. Earth-suppressing fist. As the entire Hidden Dragon Fortress shook, the mountain formed by the fist technique smashed toward Shang Baijian. Yu Haoran, you're crazy. Feeling the terrifying power contained in the mountain formed by the fist technique, Shang Baijian shouted in disbelief. At the same time, he used all of his strength to display a heaven-level sword technique, wanting to directly shatter the mountain smashing towards him. Surnamed Shang, I even dared to kill your Shang clan's ancestor, Shang Jia. Why wouldn't I dare to kill a mere junior like you? He knew that a core disciple of an inherited clan like Shang Baijian would more or less have a trump card that could turn the situation around. Not only would the earth-suppressing fist not be able to kill Shang Baijian, it might not even have the power to severely injure him. Therefore, Yu Haoran used sharp words to attack the flaw in Shang Baijian's mental state, while continuing to display the second ancestral witch's inherited fist technique. Sky-shattering fist. If the earth-suppressing fist was an attack that used a powerful force to oppress the enemy, then the second move, Sky-shattering fist, was an attack that combined strength and speed. In order to prepare for the Central Region and the 5 regions Hidden Dragon ranking battle, Shang Baijian had either entered deep into the mountains to train or secluded himself in a training room to cultivate. He didn't know that his ancestor, Shang Jia, had died, nor did he know that his ancestor, Shang Jia, had died at the hands of Yu Haoran. Therefore, Shang Baijian's heaven-level sword technique paused for a moment and was immediately shattered by the mountain formed by the earth-suppressing fist. The mountain then continued to smash towards Shang Baijian. Just as the mountain formed by the fist technique was less than 3 meters away from Shang Baijian's head, Shang Baijian suddenly calmed down. This made Yu Haoran raise his head to look at the pavilion in the central plaza. Shang Baijian, who had suddenly calmed down, immediately replaced his supreme grade sword with a low grade emperor grade sword. He then continued to use his heaven-level sword technique, combined with the emperor grade sword's emperor aura, to heavily smash towards the mountain above his head. Boom! As the sword technique that contained the emperor's aura slammed into the mountain formed by the fist technique was immediately shattered. But then Gao Baijian let out a miserable howl, because the second fist technique, heaven-breaking fist, was a combination of speed and strength. The moment the mountain was shattered, it directly affected Shang Baijian's body. An incomparably strong, tearing force directly tore his left hand that was holding the low-grade emperor grade sword, along with his arm. As a core disciple of the Shang clan and the strongest of the Shang clan's younger generation, Shang Baijian was an extremely determined person. He gritted his teeth and endured the intense pain as he swallowed a few healing pills, then raised his head to look at the person who had caused him to lose his arm. However, when he saw that Yu Haoran did not show any mercy and continued to use his fist technique, he couldn't help but immediately admit defeat. I admit defeat. As the most talented and potential direct descendant of the Shang clan's younger generation, Shang Baijian was highly valued in the Shang clan. For this year's 5 Regions Hidden Dragon ranking contest, the clan leader and the clan ancestor had carefully prepared 3 trump cards that could allow him to turn the tables. The low-grade Emperor Grade Sword just now was only the weakest of the 3 trump cards. However, in order to use the other 2 trump cards, he had to be in peak condition. Now, with his 5 viscera and 6 bowels injured and lost his left arm, he knew very well that even if he used his trump cards, he was no match for Yu Haoran. Therefore, he did not hesitate to admit defeat. After hearing Shang Baijian's admission of defeat, Yu Haoran, who had already gathered the 3rd fist technique, could not help but sigh regretfully. As he dissipated the power of the fist technique, he reached out to the sword that had fallen to the ground and sucked it in. The sword obediently fell into his hand. Although it is a complete, low-grade Emperor Grade Sword with a weapon spirit, the weapon spirit is sealed by a special secret technique. At most, it can only use 1% of the weapon's power. After using his divine will to scan the sword, Thowling explained in detail the basic information of the sword, then suggested. Chapter 1466. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress, Courtyard Number 9. All right, Yu Haoran nodded without hesitation at Thowling's suggestion. He tossed the sword into the air and called out to Yusiki, who was sitting cross-legged in the air. Sister, I'll give you this sword with an artifact spirit. Yusiki's eyes flew open when she heard Yu Haoran's reminder. She immediately reached out to grab the low-grade Emperor Grade Sword, a look of joy on her face. Following that, her gaze turned to the second courtyard. Her eyes were filled with an impulsive eagerness. Yu Haoran, leave that Song Yuan sword behind. When Shang Baijian saw that Yu Haoran had not only snatched away his sword, but had even given it to his sister, Shang Baijian's face contorted in anger. That Song Yuan sword was his direct bloodline ancestor's personal artifact. Losing his left arm meant that he was no longer qualified to fight for the top 10 of the 5 Regions Hidden Dragon leaderboard. If he lost his ancestor's personal artifact as well, he would probably be reduced to an insignificant nobody in the Shang clan. Shang Baijian, the Genesis sword is now Yu Haoran's spoils of war. If you want to take it back, you'll have to challenge me. Facing Shang Baijian's ferocious rebuke, Yu Haoran's expression was filled with ridicule and provocation. As long as you can defeat me, even my life is yours, let alone that Song Yuan's sword. In the face of Yu Haoran's provocation, Shang Baijian's pain from losing his arm kept him clear-headed at all times. The green hills will not change, and the clear waters will flow forever. Shang Baijian put away his left arm that had been torn off by his fist technique. As he walked out of the 9th monastery, his eyes emitted a sinister coldness as he threatened. Yu Haoran, not only will I take back the Tsang Yuan sword in the future, but I'll also wring your head with my own hands. Ever since I, Yu Haoran, made my debut, those who lost to me would forever lose the possibility of catching up to me. You, Shang Baijian, are no exception. Facing Shang Baijian's threat, Yu Haoran directly countered. Oof. In the face of Yu Haoran's fierce counterattack, Shang Baijian forcefully suppressed his anger and coldly snorted. Then, with a gloomy expression, he left the 9th courtyard and went straight to the 47th courtyard, which also belonged to the Shang clan disciples. Senior brother, Wu Jingjun walked straight to Yu Haoran after using the antidote to neutralize the 1,000-feet spider's poison. He lowered his head and apologized. I'm sorry. I was too confident and arrogant. That's why I ended up being plotted against. Zhongjun, don't worry about it. Shang Baijian's method of using the 1,000-feet spider's poison was extremely secretive. If it weren't for the fact that I'm proficient in the poison Dao and have a special ability to sense poison, I probably wouldn't have been able to notice Shang Baijian's treacherous methods. Yu Haoran shook his head. Then he raised his head and called out to Qin Lingfei, Yu Siki, the sword without trace, and Kong Yunga, who had already finished their challenges, indicating for them to come to courtyard number 9. Through constant improvement and accumulation of battle experience, Qin Lingfei had finally defeated her opponent in courtyard number 56. At the same time, she had also prevented her opponent from leaving courtyard number 9, just like Kong Yunga. As for the sword without trace, he had used his perfect defense and offense to force Huangfu Chuiying to concede when she had no choice but to use her trump card to preserve her strength. Although the challenge just now allowed you to successfully grasp the power of your breakthrough, it also exposed your true strength. Looking at the 5 people standing in the courtyard, Yu Haoran solemnly instructed them. Therefore, make use of the last bit of time before the start of the 5 regions' Hidden Dragon ranking competition. Continue to cultivate in seclusion to increase your cultivation level and strength so that you can obtain a higher ranking in the end. Hearing Yu Haoran's instructions, the 5 people who had already experienced the strength of the Central Region's contestants immediately chose their rooms and began to use the last bit of time to cultivate. Either scram or die. Just as Yu Haoran was about to turn around and choose his room, Yuan Haofei's berating voice suddenly rang out by his ear. Turning his head, Yu Haoran saw that Yuan Haofei had challenged courtyard number 12. This meant that he had already put down his pride and had begun to truly face his strength. Greetings, senior brother. Turning his head back, Yu Haoran had just raised his foot and was about to enter his room when a familiar voice rang out by his ear. Turning his head again, Yu Haoran saw that the champion of the Eastern Region Hidden Dragon ranking, the Taoist-robed youth, was challenging courtyard number 15's contestants. The Eastern Region situation was different from the Southern Regions. The Southern Region had suffered a disastrous calamity over 100,000 years ago. Not only had the loss of heaven and earthling qi been severe, but it had also caused many powerful factions to lose their inheritances. However, the Eastern Region had not suffered any calamities. Not only was the heaven and earthling qi abundant, but many of the middle and late ancient clans' inheritances had also been preserved perfectly. As the strongest expert of the Eastern Region's younger generation, the Taoist-robed youth definitely had the strength to challenge the top 10 contestants. The reason he had chosen courtyard number 15's contestants was most likely because he wanted to preserve his strength and trump cards to reach a higher ranking. There wasn't much time left until the start of the 5 regions' Hidden Dragon ranking. Since the champions of the Eastern, Southern, and Northern regions had already arrived, the Western region's golden-robed youth should also be arriving soon. That was why Yu Haoran didn't enter his room for the time being. He wanted to see who the golden-robed youth was challenging to determine his character and ambition. He didn't have to wait for long. Just as the Taoist-robed youth easily defeated courtyard number 15's contestant, the golden-robed youth appeared above the Hidden Dragon Fortress. Then the golden-robed youth chose courtyard number 25's contestant. Using a dazzling golden fist art, he knocked courtyard number 25's contestant unconscious and directly threw him out of the monastery. They're all wolves in sheep's clothing. I have to be careful when dealing with them. Otherwise, it's very likely I'll fail miserably. Looking away from the golden-robed youth, Yu Haoran couldn't help sighing inside as he walked into his room. There were still 3 hours until the start of the 5 regions' Hidden Dragon ranking. A total of 419 contestants had already arrived. Among them, 88 were from the southern region, 92 were from the western region, 89 were from the eastern region, and 87 were from the central region. As for the northern region, they only had 63 contestants. Just from this point, it could be seen how cruel the devil Dao cultivators of the northern region were. Chapter 1467. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress. There were still 3 minutes before the start of the 5 regions' Hidden Dragon ranking competition. Yu Haoran woke up Qin Lingfei and the others with his divine telekinesis. He walked out of the 9th courtyard and went straight to the central square in the center of the fortress. The Hidden Dragon fortresses in the east, south, west, north, and central region all had the same architectural style. At the same time, there was no preliminary test for the 5 regions' Hidden Dragon ranking competition. Therefore, Yu Haoran and the others who used their movement techniques only spent less than 2 minutes to successfully arrive at the central square. Yu Haoran raised his head and looked at the spectator stand around him. He realized that the Qin Emperor and the others, who were supposed to be at the top of the south side of the spectator stands, had no choice but to sit in the lower middle seats. The stone chairs at the top of the south stand belonged to the important figures of the various families in the central region. People like Emperor Qin were not qualified to sit there. After sweeping his gaze across the spectating experts, Yu Haoran's gaze landed on the only ring in the middle of the square, as well as the leaderboard above the square. There was a hint of worry in his eyes. When Peng Yanfei returned to the pavilion in the central square, he said that he had prepared a super luxurious tag team battle for him. He could vaguely guess the content of the tag team battle. However, if Peng Yanfei was really as he guessed, and the Hidden Dragon fate did not appear to stop him, then there would be no possibility of reconciliation between him and the Pure World Organization. In the future, it would definitely be a situation where only one side would be able to live. When the competition officially started, the leaderboard floating above the central square shot out 7 rays of black light, 7 rays of white light, 7 rays of blue light, 7 rays of green light, 7 rays of red light, 7 rays of blue light, and 7 rays of purple light. The 35 rays of light were divided into 5 parts according to black, white, green, red, blue, and purple. They were then shot into the air above the stands in the east, south, west, and north, as well as 10 meters away from the leaderboard. It was exactly the same as the final competition of the Southern Region Hidden Dragon ranking competition. The 7 rays of light in different positions condensed into large and comfortable dragon chairs. Then, a venerable that matched the color of the dragon chairs appeared in front of each of the chairs. The only thing that was special was that there was no one in front of the white and purple dragon chairs in the upper area of the plaza, as well as the black dragon chairs in the southern region of the south. Welcome, Hall Master. When all 32 venerables of the 5 regions' Hidden Dragon Fortress appeared in front of the dragon throne, they knelt on one knee in the air and shouted respectfully. However, the Amethyst Elder, Xue Qingyuan from the southern region's Hidden Dragon Fortress, not only greeted him in a voice so low that no one could hear him, but there was also no trace of respect in his eyes. As the leader of the Hidden Dragon Hall, Peng Yanfei, appeared in front of the purple dragon chair, it meant that the Hidden Dragon list competition had officially begun. Unlike Xue Qingyuan, who used his terrifying aura to force the audience and contestants to submit, Peng Yanfei, who appeared in front of the purple dragon throne, cupped his hands and thanked the countless experts in the stands. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time out of your busy schedules to come to the Hidden Dragon Fortress in the Central Region to watch the most important competition in the profound Sky Continent, the 5 Regions Hidden Dragon Ranking Battle. Hall Master Peng is too courteous. Hall Master Peng, you're being too polite. This is what I should do. Yuan Sangxiong could look down on Peng Yanfei because his status was high enough and he was strong enough. However, for most of the experts in the stands, they could not look down on Peng Yanfei's identity and status. Therefore, in the face of Peng Yanfei's gratitude, countless experts in the stands hurriedly responded politely. Peng Yanfei put down his raised hands and looked away from the stands. He looked at the 419 contestants in the central square below the ring. When he saw Yu Haoran, a sinister smile flashed across Peng Yanfei's eyes. Contestants, you're all demonic geniuses and experts in your regions. It's the fortune of the 5 Regions Hidden Dragon Fortress to be able to pass through all the tests to reach the final. It's also your opportunity. Peng Yanfei retracted his gaze that was focused on Yu Haoran. His gentle gaze instantly replaced his gloomy gaze as he chuckled. Then he pointed at the only ring in the central square and asked with a smile on his face, "Do you have any doubts? Does everyone here have a question in their hearts right now? Why is there only one arena for this year's 5 Regions Hidden Dragon ranking? Could it be that the matches are carried out one after another? Hall Leader Peng, please enlighten us." Seeing that the smiling Peng Yanfei suddenly stopped talking, some of the shrewd people immediately guessed his intentions and immediately cooperated with him to ask. Peng Yanfei's smile widened when he saw that someone was actively cooperating with him. This year's 5 Regions Hidden Dragon ranking competition is divided into 2 stages. The first stage of the competition is a tag team battle against a certain contestant. It needs to be carried out one match after another. In the second stage, the rules are exactly the same as before. After hearing Peng Yanfei's detailed explanation, the spectators in the stands, the contestants in the central square, and the venerables in the 4 regions all looked at Yu Haoran, who was standing on the south side of the ring. After all, when Peng Yanfei threatened Yu Haoran by taking turns to fight one after another, many contestants and spectators had seen and heard it with their own eyes. Damn it! After hearing Peng Yanfei's detailed explanation, Yuan Sangxiong, who was at the top of the stands on the north side, couldn't help but curse in his heart. If not for the fact that the rules set by the Hidden Dragon Providence had reached its peak after the official start of the 5 Regions Hidden Dragon List competition, which prevented him from attacking like he had against the white-robed venerable, he would have secretly used a secret technique of the Demon Dao to severely injure Peng Yanfei. Meng Zhengkai, who had also guessed Peng Yanfei's intention, complained to Emperor Qin indignantly. "Unfair. This is too unfair." Emperor Qin's expression was also gloomy. However, due to the influence of the great Emperor Qin Empire and his own strength, he could only watch helplessly as Yu Haoran suffered injustice. About 40 meters away from the Qin Emperor and Meng Zhengkai, Bai Li from the Bai clan in the central region looked at Yu Haoran, who was below the arena in the central plaza after hearing Peng Yanfei's detailed introduction. Disappointment and disdain flashed through her eyes as she commented to Yu Ling. "Yu Ling, now you know the real reason why I've been stopping you from looking for Yu Haoran. Someone like Yu Haoran who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and likes to cause trouble will die sooner or later because of his arrogant personality. At the same time, he will also implicate his family. I understand. I'll cut off all unrealistic thoughts about Yu Haoran." Yu Ling, who was very clear about the strength of the contestants from the central region, nodded in agreement with Bai Li's evaluation of Yu Haoran. At the same time, he hurriedly made a promise to cut off all ties with him. Chapter 1468. In the central square of the Hidden Dragon Fortress in the central region, Yu, who wore a special mask, was about 300 meters above Bai Li and Yu Ling. She was almost at the top of the southern viewing platform. She clenched her fists as she asked Shi Fangling, who was also wearing a special mask. "Sister Fangling, Haoran is in big trouble. What should I do?" Shi Fangling glanced at Peng Yanfei coldly. Gentleness immediately replaced the coldness in her eyes. She patted Ryu's clenched fists and comforted her. Ryu, you have to believe in Howren's strength. Since he was able to obtain a complete victory in the tag team battle in the Southern Region's Hidden Dragon rankings, he can also obtain victory in the tag team battle this time. Sister Fangling, it's not the same at all, Ryu said with a tearful voice as she glanced at the over 400 contestants in the central square. The contestants of the Southern Region are limited by the spiritual chi of heaven and earth and the legacy cultivation methods. Their cultivation and strength are on the low side, so Howren, who is outstanding, was able to obtain victory in the tag team battle easily. However, the contestants of the Central Region are different. The complete legacies from the primordial, middle, and recent primordial, as well as the abundant spiritual chi of heaven and earth, and the cruel environment of competition allow every contestant's strength to be on par with, or even stronger than Howren. Moreover, there are also the top monstrous experts from the eastern, northern, and western regions. Sure Fangling also knew the reason for Ryu's rebuttal. However, she could only watch helplessly as she was limited by the rules of the Hidden Dragon rankings. But as she looked at Howren's expression that didn't change in the slightest, Sure Fangling suddenly had a feeling in her heart. She felt that perhaps he would be able to maintain an undefeated record and easily obtain victory, just like he did during the battle of attrition in the Southern Territory's Hidden Dragon rankings. Ryu, you have to believe in the man you love. Believe that he's an omnipotent person. Believe that he's a person who can create miracles. Believe that he's a person who can overcome all difficulties and stand at the peak. Sure Fangling extended her slender hand and held Ryu's clenched fist as she encouraged her. The dozens of stone chairs at the top of the west side of the stands also belonged to the top families of the Central Region. On one of the stone chairs near the top, a handsome middle-aged man with an outstanding temperament and dressed in a fluttering fire phoenix robe looked at the blue-clothed youth below the arena who was looking up at the list. A terrifying cold light flashed in his eyes as he sneered in his heart. A lowly brat like you wants to obtain the most dazzling pearl of my long clan? Dream on. In fact, Howren had already guessed Peng Yanfei's sinister intentions when he saw that there was only one wide ring in the central square. Therefore, after hearing his detailed introduction of the rules of the competition, Howren's heart was as calm as water, and he did not show any anger. He just looked up at the list condensed by the Dragon Providence in mid-air with a look of anticipation and desire in his eyes. This was because the agreement between him and the Dragon Providence during the final battle of the Hidden Dragon ranking in the Southern Region, or rather, the deal had not really begun. It now had the responsibility and obligation to come out and stop Peng Yanfei's luxurious tag team battle against him. However, after staring at it for nearly 3 minutes, the list floating in mid-air did not change at all. This made the expectation and desire in his eyes be replaced by deep disappointment and unwillingness in the end. Howren flew to the front of the list and ignored the angry gazes of the 6 venerables from the Central Region. He looked straight at the list and questioned. The Dragon Providence is blatantly breaking the rules of the competition. Don't you plan to come out and stop it? In the face of Howren's questioning, the list floated quietly and did not give any response. The Dragon Providence, with the continuous progress of the Hidden Dragon ranking, has your Providence greatly improved that you no longer need the agreement in the Void Region? If it could come out and stop it, it would have stopped it long ago and would not wait for him to question it. Therefore, Howren did not care at all and continued to question it. Good, very good. In the face of the list that still did not give any response, the disappointment and unwillingness in Howren's eyes were replaced by a gloomy coldness. He was not angry. Instead, he smiled and said good twice before returning to the square below the arena. Prince Consort, Ling Fei will always be with you. Although Howren did not show the slightest anger, as his wife, Qin Ling Fei, knew that he had accumulated a lot of grievances and anger in his heart. She hurriedly walked to his side, held his broad and strong hand tightly, and spoke softly like water. Ling Fei, Your husband will always be with you. Yu Haoran promised with a smile in response to Qin Lingfei's comforting words. Yu Siki, who walked to Yu Haoran, glanced at the more than 410 contestants around the arena and threatened with a ruthless and cold gaze. In the following tag team battles, the contestants who do not take the initiative to admit defeat will meet me, Yu Siki, in the ranking competition. Speaking up to here, the low-grade, emperor-grade sword that appeared in her hand suddenly slashed fiercely at the void. It contained the special Yuan energy condensed by the Great Oblivion Mantra and the 1% strength of the sword spirit that had already recognized its master. The sword chi that casually slashed out directly cut the void above the hidden dragon fortress into a 100-meter-long crack. Yusiki's ruthless and cold voice echoed in their ears. Looking at the 100-meter-long crack in the void, whether it was the powerful contestants from the central region or the contestant from the other 4 regions, there was a trace of fear and hesitation in their eyes. Especially for Zhou Mengling, who was deeply moved in her heart, because she found that the strength Yusiki had casually displayed just now was at least several times stronger than when they had fought in the Courtyard Challenge. The difference was only 7 or 8 hours. In the following tag team battles, the contestants who do not take the initiative to admit defeat will meet me, Wu Jingjun, in the ranking competition. Wu Jingjun stepped to Yu Haoran's side and threatened with a murderous aura, just like Yusiki. Then, the blood devourer that instantly appeared in his hand, and with the help of his bloodthirsty special constitution, he used all his strength to perform a blade technique in the void above the hidden dragon fortress. Although the sharp blade technique finally cut out a 100-meter-long crack in the void, the deterrent force formed by the blade technique was far less than Yusiki's casual sword chi. At least the dozens of contestants from the central region had a trace of contempt in their eyes. At the top of the eastern region spectator stands, there was a young girl who looked to be about 27 or 28 years old. She was extremely charming and gorgeous. When she saw Wu Jingjun, who had bravely stepped forward, she suddenly clenched her fists, and a look of pleasant surprise immediately appeared in her eyes. Her charming expression and surprised smile made her look like the most eye-catching peony and rose in a field of flowers. She gave off a kind of dual beauty that was both holy and charming. A golden unicorn is not a fish in a pond. It will turn into a dragon when it encounters the wind and clouds. Little June, don't be angry because of the contempt of those people. Right now, you are like a stranded dragon. You lack the opportunity to turn into a dragon. Chapter 1469. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress, Central Square. Walking up to Yu Haoran, the sword without trace glanced at Qin Lingfei and said softly with a smile, "Junior brother you and I will never leave each other." Then, the smile in her eyes was instantly replaced by indifference. She looked around at the more than 410 contestants around the arena, and the ultimate Emperor sword weapon that contained the inheritance of the Amethyst Sword Emperor appeared in her hand. Love lingering in the heavens. With Jian Wuhan's shout, he used the Amethyst Sword Emperor's inherited sword technique and the sword weapon in his hand to create a 300-meter-long crack in the void above the hidden dragon fortress. In the following rounds, whoever dares to fight against my junior brother, you will have to suffer the thunderbolt sword technique of the sword without trace. Jian Wuhan put away his top-grade, emperor-grade sword, and for the first time, revealed his true intentions in front of the crowd. Looking at the void crack above the hidden dragon fortress that could not be repaired for a long time, both the 80 contestants from the central region and the 200 contestants from the east, west, and north regions were shocked. Especially for Huangfu, Xianying, who had just fought with Jian Wuhan, the impact on her heart was even greater. This was because she knew very well that it was only a matter of time before she was defeated if she didn't use all her trump cards based on the sword technique that Jian Wuhan had just executed. Many contestants who had ignored the threats of Yusiki and Wu Jingjun could not help but want to retreat. Yu Shixiang, don't worry because you have us by your side. Kong Yung-ah walked up to Yu Haoran and ignored Qin Lingfei, who was standing beside him. Her eyes were full of tenderness as she encouraged him. Squeak! At the same time, Wind-tailed Fox on her shoulder squeaked and waved its sharp little claws, indicating that it would always be by Yu Haoran's side. Xiaofeng, it's time for you to perform. Just like Traceless Sword, Jiang Jingya turned her head to instruct the Wind-tailed Fox on her shoulder after looking at the 410 contestants around her. Squeak, squeak, squeak. The Wind-tailed Fox shouted 3 times to indicate that it understood. The 8 furry tails behind it began to grow rapidly, and soon became 8 gigantic tails that were 1,000 meters long. Then, under the control of Wind-tailed Fox, the 8 giant tails suddenly smashed into a point in the void above the hidden dragon fortress. Although the spatial cracks created by the 8 tails were less than 100 meters long, the spatial turbulence flowing within the cracks not only struck fear into the eyes of the participating contestants, but even the expressions of the countless experts in the spectator stands changed. Looking at Yusiki, Wu Jingjun, the sword without trace, and Kong Yung-ah standing in front of him, as well as Qin Lingfei, who was holding his left hand tightly, Yu Haoran felt that his eyes were slightly wet. No matter what kind of danger he encountered, no matter how powerful the enemy he faced was, his family and friends would always stand by his side and accompany him through all the difficulties. With the support of these close friends and family, the luxurious tag team battle was nothing. Ling Fei, turning his head to signal Qin Lingfei to let go of his left hand, Yu Haoran stepped in front of Yusiki and the other 3, and then cupped his hands and said to the audience in the spectator stands, Junior Yu Haoran greets all the seniors. As the saying goes, every man for himself, and the devil takes the hindmost. Since that Peng fellow is so shameless as to deliberately target this junior, then in order to protect this junior's life, and also in order to obtain even more hidden dragon luck, there are some things that this junior has no choice but to do. Retracting his gaze from the audience in the spectator stands, Yu Haoran glanced at all the contestants coldly and directly activated the physical strength of the ancestral witch. Then, he combined all of his origin power and soul power to perform the 3rd move of the ancestral witch's inherited fist technique. Star River Fist. Accompanied by Yu Haoran's roar, the fist formed by the fist technique rapidly grew in size. When it reached the void 10,000 meters above the hidden dragon fortress, it had become a giant fist about the size of the central square. Boom! Accompanied by a deafening roar, the fist formed a bottomless pit that was about 1,000 meters long and 300 to 400 meters wide in the void. Moreover, the spatial turbulence in the deep pit was affected by the fist technique's energy and began to surge out of the deep pit. Damn you, Yu Haoran, are you trying to destroy the hidden dragon fortress? Seeing the spatial turbulence rushing toward the hidden dragon fortress like a waterfall, Peng Yanfei's face darkened. As he cursed, he flew directly into the spatial turbulence and used his powerful strength to forcefully change the direction of the spatial turbulence. At the same time, the other 5 venerables in the central region worked together to repair the deep pit in the void created by the fist technique. Just one move of the fist technique could directly create a bottomless pit in the void. Seeing Yu Haoran with his hands behind his back and a calm expression, most of the contestants felt extremely fearful. At the same time, they were determined to admit defeat as soon as they got on the stage. After nearly 3 minutes, Peng Yanfei and the 5 venerables finally dealt with the deep pit in the void and the spatial turbulence. Peng Yanfei returned to the purple dragon throne with a gloomy expression. He glared at Yu Haoran with fire in his eyes. Then, he quickly formed a seal with his 10 fingers and controlled the seal to merge with the list. Just like the final of the Southern Region Hidden Dragon ranking, Yu Haoran's name gradually appeared on the list floating in the air. However, unlike the final of the Southern Region Hidden Dragon ranking, what appeared with the name was not the 7-color dragon that represented the Hidden Dragon Providence. Instead, it was the number 1. The number 1 behind the name represented the base number of multiples. It was also the number of the hidden dragon providence that one could obtain in the end. According to the rules of the previous competitions, the 5-region hidden dragon ranking competition was divided into an elimination round and a ranking round. In the knockout stage, all the contestants from the 5 regions would be regrouped. Then, according to the number of contestants, they would be divided into 5 groups or 4 groups. Then, the top 20 or top 25 contestants from each group would advance to the final ranking match. Every contestant who participated in the ranking round would be given 1 point. 1 point would be given for each win, and no points would be given for each loss. In the end, the list would multiply the number of points you obtained by the 7-color dragon in your area to determine the number of hidden dragon providence you obtained. For example, if Howard maintained a perfect record in the ranking round, he would obtain 100 points. Chapter 1470. In the central square of the hidden dragon fortress in the central region, the thought of the 1 million meter long 7-color dragon, which represented the hidden dragon luck, was enough to make people extremely excited. But now, there was a problem that troubled Howard, who had been forcefully brought up to the arena by the leaderboard, and that was that he was deliberately targeted by Peng Yanfei. Would the following tag team battle be considered an elimination round or a ranking round? If it was an elimination match, then Peng Yanfei was blatantly breaking the rules of the competition. He had the right to refuse the tag team battle, or let the fouling directly send him into the virtual zone and question the hidden dragon luck face to face. If it was a ranking match, then how would the points be calculated? According to the rules of the previous matches, the maximum points could be 100, or all the points would be counted according to the number of matches he participated in. After Peng Yanfei introduced the rules of the competition in the hidden dragon fortress of the 5 regions in detail, the audience and contestants at the scene either looked forward to Howard's defeat with schadenfreude, felt sorry for him with worry, or ignored the matter as if it had nothing to do with them. No one at the scene thought of the connection between the tag team battle and the points of the ranking match. Now, when they heard Howard's question to Peng Yanfei, they suddenly thought of the connection. The audience and the contestants at the scene suddenly became nervous. If the tag team battle was an elimination match, or the points were only 100, then the tag team battle arranged by Peng Yanfei by changing the rules of the competition would not go smoothly, unless, Howard, I've already obtained the consent of the hidden dragon luck in advance. The tag team battle belongs to the ranking match, and the points of each match will be counted. Facing Howard's question, Peng Yanfei, who had already arranged it in advance, explained with a chuckle. If Howard, can maintain a winning record in the tag team battle, then you will obtain a high score of 419 points. Hiss! After hearing Peng Yanfei's explanation, both the audience in the stands and the contestants around the arena could not help but gasp. He had 419 points. Then, he rode on the 10,000-meter 7-color dragon that he had won in the Southern Region Hidden Dragon Rank competition. In that case, Howard's rainbow dragon would be 19 million meters long after he obtained the Hidden Dragon Providence's blessing. The length of the body of a rainbow dragon that was 19 million meters long was almost equivalent to more than 50 hidden dragon fortresses combined. Perhaps even the dragon god of ancient times was not as long as this. More importantly, with the blessing of such a huge hidden dragon, Howard's cultivation and strength would rise to an unimaginable level. Cough. Peng Yanfei could not help but sneer in his heart when he saw the countless experts in the surrounding viewing gallery, as well as the 400-plus participants below the stage. Then, he used his sole power to let out a light cough. When everyone's attention was focused on him again, Peng Yanfei continued to speak with a chuckle. As the saying goes, there's no free lunch in this world. As the champion of the Southern Region Hidden Dragon Rank competition, Howard, are more powerful than most of the contestants here. If you choose to surrender when facing an opponent who is as powerful as you or stronger than you, it's very unfair to the other contestants. After all, Even if you surrender for 100 or 200 rounds on purpose, the points you'll get in the end will be far more than the other contestants. Therefore, according to the new rules of the competition set by Lord Hidden Dragon Luck, in the following tag team battles, no matter if you surrender or are defeated by your opponent, your points will all be reset to 0. After hearing Peng Yanfei's further explanation, the envy and jealousy in everyone's eyes were instantly replaced by gloating and worried expressions. However, Yu Haoran, who was standing in the arena, showed a happy smile when Peng Yanfei's further explanation was finished. At the same time, he did something that was beyond everyone's expectations. Hidden Dragon Luck, the agreement between you and me still stands. I will do my best to fulfill the agreement. Yu Haoran cupped his hands and thanked the list in the air. As soon as Yu Haoran's thanks fell, his opponent's name immediately appeared on the list. However, there was no number behind his opponent's name. This also meant that the tag team battle record belonged to Yu Haoran alone. Hong Tong-san from the Eastern region's Hong family greets Yu Shixiao. The contestant who was forced into the arena by the list first introduced himself according to the rules of the competition. Then, he looked at Yu Haoran with hesitation in his eyes. Either you surrender or you die. Yu Haoran raised the white cudgel in his hand and gave his opponent the choice of surrender or death, just like he had done in the tag team battle in the Southern Region's Hidden Dragon ranking competition. Yu Shixiao, it doesn't matter if I surrender or continue the competition. Don't you think your cold and threatening attitude is too much? Don't you think you don't deserve the title of the champion of the Southern Region's Hidden Dragon ranking competition? Hong Tong-san questioned Yu Haoran unhappily. Yu Haoran's response to Hong Tong-san's question was very simple. He integrated the complete speed law into the overwhelming cudgel technique, and the white cudgel instantly appeared above Hong Tong-san's head. Under Hong Tong-san's incredulous gaze, the white cudgel, which contained the power of a peak third-grade martial venerable, smashed him into a pile of meat paste. Ding dong! The moment Hong Tong-san was smashed into meat paste by the white cudgel, Yu Haoran's body made a crisp sound. Along with the crisp sound, the number that had been integrated into his mind reappeared. The number behind his name had changed from 1 to 2. This is outrageous! A white-haired elder from the east side of the spectator stand suddenly stood up and shouted. He had never expected Yu Haoran to be so ruthless. He did not give his opponent any chance to breathe or surrender. However, for the contestants from the Southern Region and some of the spectators who had watched the Hidden Dragon ranking competition in the Southern Region, Yu Haoran's attack did not surprise them at all. I have already reminded everyone before the start of the tag team battle. In order to protect my own life, and also to obtain more Hidden Dragon luck, there are some things that I have no choice but to do. Turning his head to look at the white-haired old man who stood up angrily, Yu Haoran reminded with an ice-cold expression. Junior, you could have just knocked Tong-san out of the arena. Why did you kill him? The white-haired elder asked gloomily. Chapter 1471. In the arena of the Hidden Dragon Fortress in the Central Region, seeing that Yu Haoran was ignoring him, the white-haired ancestor, who was furious, threatened him with a gloomy expression. Yu Haoran, you'd better not come to the Eastern Region for the rest of your life. Otherwise, the ancestors of the Hong family will definitely make sure you never return. If I have the time and opportunity in the future, I will personally visit the Hong family in the Eastern Region and see if your Hong family can withstand my monstrous anger. In the face of the white-haired ancestor's threat, Yu Haoran also fought back, not to be outdone. However, as the second contestant was forcibly brought into the arena by the leaderboard, Yu Haoran quickly withdrew his gaze and immediately raised the white stick in his hand to threaten him. Either you admit defeat or die. Yu Haoran, in the dictionary of our demon cultivators, there is no such thing as admitting defeat. In the face of Yu Haoran's choice of admitting defeat or dying, a demon cultivator from the Northern Region replied arrogantly, overturning rivers and seas. The same move, the same speed, the same result. Before the demon cultivator from the Northern Region could retract his arrogance, he was directly smashed into a pile of meat paste by the white stick. At the same time, the number behind Yu Haoran's name changed from 2 to 3. Stupid. Idiot. Seeing that the demon cultivator from the northern region was directly smashed in a meat paste by Yu Haoran, Yuan Sangxiong, who was in the stands, and Yuan Haofei, who was below the arena, could not help but comment at the same time. Wang Bingbai, a core disciple of the Heart Source sect in the western region, greets Yu Shixiao. The third contestant, who was forcibly brought into the arena by the leaderboard, took the initiative to introduce himself before Yu Haoran could threaten him with a choice. Then, he directly interrupted Yu Haoran's white stick and continued to speak while he was about to open his mouth to speak. Although the western region and the southern region are separated by tens of thousands of miles, Yu Shixiao's fame has long spread throughout the western region. I have always. While Wang Bingbai flattered Yu Haoran's fame, a trace of pride gradually appeared in his eyes. However, at this moment, a cold light flashed in the eyes of Yu Haoran, who had been holding the white stick horizontally, and said in a cold tone, "Illusion mystic mind confusion mystic technique. It seems that you have chosen to die." Along with his indifferent words, the leaderboard, the demon cultivator from the mystic sect, was also smashed into a pile of meat paste under his incredulous eyes. "You're courting death's your life." Just as Wang Binbai was smashed into meat paste by the white stick, a middle-aged woman in the middle of the west side of the stand suddenly stood up. She roared with a ferocious expression and charged toward the ring with a murderous aura while holding a top-grade Exalt Realm sword. Facing the middle-aged woman who had broken the rules of the competition, Peng Yinfei, who was sitting on the purple dragon throne, suddenly closed his eyes. He had no intention of punishing her. Peng Yinfei's nonchalant attitude made Yu Haoran burn with rage. Yu Haoran looked at the middle-aged woman, whose cultivation was at the peak of 8th grade martial venerable realm. He planned to kill her with his own strength. However, just as he was about to use the first move of the Monkey Emperor's inheritance, the Skyward Staff technique, and was about to soar into the sky, 2 purple thunderbolts suddenly shot out from the list that had been calm. One of the purple thunderbolts met the middle-aged woman, instantly turning her into ashes. The other purple thunderbolt hit Peng Yinfei directly, forcing him out of the purple dragon throne and causing him to spit out 3 mouthfuls of blood essence. Hidden Dragon Blessing, what are you doing? Peng Yinfei, who was severely injured, did not have time to wipe off the remaining blood at the corner of his mouth. He questioned the list loudly with a ferocious expression. "This is the only time. If you do it again, your soul will be destroyed." In the face of Peng Yinfei's rude questioning, the Hidden Dragon Blessing gave a cold warning from the list. Peng Yinfei's face was pale because of the serious injury. After hearing the Hidden Dragon Blessing's cold warning, his face became even paler. Xue Qingyan, who was sitting on the purple dragon throne in the southern region, heard the Hidden Dragon Blessing's warning to Peng Yinfei and immediately pondered. After looking back and forth between Peng Yinfei, the ranking list, and Yu Haoran, Xue Qingyan, whose thoughts were instantly replaced by surprise, revealed an unfathomable smile. Peng Yinfei, whose face was as pale as paper, immediately realized his impulsiveness. He quickly knelt on one knee and apologized to the list. "Master Hidden Dragon, I was blinded by hatred and forgot my lowly status. I hope Master Hidden Dragon will not be angry. Please forgive me, Master Hidden Dragon. Return to your seat." After nearly 10 seconds of silence, the Hidden Dragon Blessing's voice came from the list. "Thank you, Hidden Dragon Lord. Thank you, Hidden Dragon Lord." Peng Yinfei, who was forgiven by the Hidden Dragon Blessing, quickly thanked it a few times and sat back on the purple dragon throne. Then, he immediately took out a top healing elixir that had reached the 1st grade of the 2nd rank. After taking it, he closed his eyes and began to heal himself. However, Peng Yinfei, who seemed to be grateful for the Hidden Dragon Blessing's forgiveness, was furious in his heart at the moment. Damned Hidden Dragon Providence. You can only be proud of these few years. When the sect master and the elders succeed in cultivating the secret method, you will only be the source of power for us to dominate the Tianxian continent. The hidden dragon blessing took the initiative to kill the middle-aged woman who ruined the competition and punished Peng Yanfei, who turned a deaf ear to it. This further confirmed Yu Haoran's conjecture in his heart. Looking at the list in the air, his gaze suddenly became much gentler. As the fourth contestant was forcibly brought into the ring by the list, Yu Haoran quickly withdrew his gaze from the list. Junior brother Wang. However, when he saw that the contestant who was forcibly brought into the ring was Wang Qing, who was ranked last on the list from the southern region, not only did he not raise his white cudgel to threaten him, but he also smiled and nodded to greet him. I admit defeat. After raising his head and admitting defeat to the list in the air, Wang Qing excitedly cheered Yu Haoran on. Yu Shixiao, show your dominance in the Southern Region Hidden Dragon Ranking Contest and defeat all the contestants who dare to challenge you. Then, you will become the first person to do so since the Hidden Dragon Ranking Contest was held. Thank you for your encouragement, junior brother Wang Qing. I will do my best. Yu Haoran smiled in response to Wang Qing's encouragement. Goodbye, Yu Shixiao. Before the list's power could take effect, Wang Qing quickly waved his hand and quickly turned around to jump out of the ring. Either admit defeat or die. Chapter 1472. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress, Arena. As a proud genius of the Central Region and a core disciple of an inherited family, the pride in his bones made him unwilling to admit defeat. However, when he thought about how Yu Haoran had not only repelled Ji Wenlong and Yuan Haofei's joint attack, but had also used a fist technique that could create a deep hole in the void, his fear made him want to admit defeat. The influence of pride and fear made the Central Region contestant fall silent for a moment. It seems like you've already made your choice to die. No matter why his opponent fell silent, as long as he remained silent for more than 3 seconds, Yu Haoran believed that he had already made his choice. Although the Central Region contestant was far stronger than the 3 he had just killed, there was no difference in Yu Haoran's eyes. The same move, the same speed, and the same power. The white cudgel instantly appeared above his opponent's head. His reaction was different from the other 3 regions' contestants. Facing the white cudgel, the Central Region contestant did not panic at all. He immediately took out his natal saber and met the white cudgel head-on. Whether it was the grade of the celestial artifact or the power of the martial technique, the difference between the Central Region's contestants and Yu Haoran was huge. The final result was exactly the same as the contestants from the other 3 regions. Seeing that Yu Haoran had dared to directly kill a genius contestant from the Central Region, a core disciple of an inherited family, some of the contestants below the arena, who had been hoping for a fluke, immediately decided to go up the arena and admit defeat. However, the next contestant who was forcefully brought into the arena was called Ludben. He was ranked 20th in the Eastern Region Hidden Dragon ranking. He was an extremely arrogant, monstrous genius. Therefore, he did not feel the slightest bit of fear because of Yu Haoran's fierce killing of the other 4 regions' contestants. See Transforming Dragon. The moment he stepped into the arena, Ludben immediately took out a top-grade Venerable Realm sword and used an early-stage Heaven-class sword technique. He planned to take advantage of this opportunity to force Yu Haoran back or severely injure him. He was a peak first-grade martial venerable, and with the help of an early-stage Heaven-class sword technique, he could display the strength of a peak second-grade martial venerable. In Yu Haoran's eyes, Luther Ben's strength and methods were no different from those of the 4 regions' contestants he had just killed. Therefore, it was still the same move, the same speed, and the same power. With the help of the rich Xianhuang Qi in the prince's mansion, the white staff, which had advanced to the level of the supreme venerable realm, directly shattered the blue dragon formed by the sword technique and heavily smashed into Ludben's chest. Ludben, who had been sent flying by the staff technique, was like a kite with a broken string as he was thrown out of the arena. Blood spurted out of his mouth like a fountain. Boom! As Luther Ben fell heavily off the stage, The sound of his body crashing into the ground echoed throughout the arena. Following the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground, Ludbin stopped spurting out blood, but he just lay there motionlessly. A contestant from the eastern region walked to Ludbin's side. With just a glance, he couldn't help but shake his head regretfully. This was because when Yu Haoran's attack had shattered Ludbin's heart, the remaining power had also shattered the soul in his sea of consciousness. Even the dignified Ludbin, who was ranked 20th on the Eastern Region rankings, was no match for Yu Haoran's staff. Ludbin, who was also ranked 20th on the Northern Region rankings, immediately admitted defeat as soon as his feet touched the stage. Similarly, the 20th on the Western Region rankings, whose strength was similar to Ludbin's, also admitted defeat as soon as he stepped onto the stage. The 20th on the Southern Region rankings didn't need to be said. When he admitted defeat, he also cheered and encouraged him, just like Wang Qing. As for the 20th on the Central Region rankings, his name was Bailey Faywin. Although he was a peak 9th grade Martial Saint and a peak 4th grade Martial Venerable, he seemed to have received orders from his family beforehand. His eyes were filled with extreme unwillingness as he finally admitted defeat. In the next half an hour, the so-called wheel race completely turned into a round of surrenders. Regardless of whether the contestants were the fearless, demonic cultivators of the Northern Region or the arrogant, monstrous geniuses of the Central Region, all of them immediately admitted defeat the moment their feet touched the arena. Of course, Yu Haoran's thunderous attack had deterred them, and Yusiki, the sword without trace and wind-tailed fox, had threatened them. More importantly, most of the contestants who were arranged by the Hidden Dragon Luck were ranked at the bottom of their respective regional rankings, or those who were mentally weak. When the 85th opponent of the wheel race, Ruan Gongyi, who was 19th on the Central Region rankings, was about to have a real fight with Yu Haoran, Wu Jingjun, who was on the south side of the stage, suddenly roared to the sky. Yu Haoran, the secret method of tenderness water has been perfected. Zhengjun can use the reverse nurturing of the secret method of tenderness water to rapidly transform his realm and strength. After scanning Wu Jingjun with his divine thought, Thaling hurriedly explained to Yu Haoran, "Sister Wuhen Jingya, protect Junior Brother Wu immediately. Whoever dares to come within 3 meters of Junior Brother Wu, no matter who they are, no matter how powerful the force behind them is, kill them immediately." After hearing Thaling's reminder, while Yu Haoran was happy for Wu Jingjun, his subconscious reaction was to ensure his safety when he broke through. Therefore, he immediately ordered Yusiki, the sword without trace, and Kong Yong-ah, who were the strongest. Although she was about to break through to Ruthless, in the face of Yu Haoran's order, Yusiki's remaining family affection still made her obediently guard in front of Wu Jingjun. The sword without trace and Kong Yong-ah guarded Wu Zhengjuan's left and right sides. Qin Lingfei, who hadn't been instructed, took the initiative to walk behind Wu Zhengjun. She didn't care about expending her origin energy and soul power as she activated the 9-star Pearl's powerful defense. Yu Haoran's instinctive reaction, as well as Yusiki and the other three's actions without hesitation, moved everyone present, because this showed that in Yu Haoran's heart, Wu Zhengjun was very important. So important that his subconscious action was to immediately protect his safety. And Yusiki and the other three's actions without hesitation showed that Wu Jingjun was a companion worth risking their lives to protect. He was also a family member that they could entrust their backs to. Although they were moved, some of the contestants around the stage with ulterior motives did not want to see Wu Zhengjuan's strength increase by leaps and bounds after his successful breakthrough, affecting their own ranking competition results. Chapter 1473. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress Arena. During the start of the Hidden Dragon ranking, the central square was closely monitored by the Hidden Dragon Fortune and more than 30 venerables. Under normal circumstances, no one would dare to break the rules of the competition. Therefore, whether it was the pagoda spirit in his sea of consciousness, the gorgeous young woman at the top of the East Grandstand, the more than 30 venerables sitting on the dragon throne, or the list floating in midair, none of them noticed the blue-eyed black cat beast that was hiding in the void and quietly approaching Wu Jun with the help of the power of the law of nothingness. Without trace, attack a spot 3 meters to your left. Yu Haoran withdrew his gaze from Wu Jingjun and forcefully suppressed the joy surging from his heart. While he was dealing with Ruan Gongyi, who was ranked 19th on the Central Region ranking list, a trace of a familiar poisonous aura immediately alerted him. It was the blue-eyed black cat beast that contained the soul, cleansing, and devouring spirit, ranked 43rd on the Tianxian continent's 100 poisons ranking. Yu Haoran, who was familiar with the origin of the poisonous aura, didn't even have time to remind the tower spirit to use its divine sense to track the hiding location of the black blue-eyed cat beast. It immediately relied on its astonishing sensitivity in the Tao of poison to determine the exact location of the black blue-eyed cat beast. After hearing Yu Haoran's anxious reminder, Jian Wuhan did not hesitate at all. He used the legacy sword technique, dragonfly skimming the water, and stabbed at the spot Yu Haoran had pointed out earlier. Meow! As the sword without trace's supreme Great Emperor's sword pierced the spot, a miserable howl sounded in the air. Accompanied by a miserable howl, an ordinary third-level venerable realm blue-eyed black cat beast was stared at by the supreme Great Emperor's sword. On the east side of the arena, an ordinary-looking girl with a hot body looked at the blue-eyed black cat beast that the sword without trace had nailed to death with his supreme Great Emperor's sword. Her eyes flashed with a cold light. Bang! Just as Jian Wuhan used his sword to nail down the venomous black-eyed cat beast, a forceful slapping sound came from the east side of the spectator stands. Immediately after, a terrifying aura that was countless times more powerful than heaven's might instantly rose. When Yu Haoran saw that his keen observation wasn't wrong, and that the one that secretly ambushed Wu Jingjun was precisely the green-eyed black cat beast that contained the soul, cleansing, and spirit-devouring poison, and was adept at hiding in the void, he couldn't help but secretly heave a sigh of relief. At the same time, a wave of rage that was like a monstrous wave surged out from his heart. The timely arrangement of protection measures just now had already proved the importance of Wu Jingjun in his heart. Under these circumstances, there were still people who wanted to utilize the soul, cleansing, and spirit-devouring poison contained within the azure-eyed black cat to launch a sneak attack on him. Not only did they harbor evil intentions, they obviously didn't take him seriously. How could this not cause Yu Haoran to feel furious? However, before the anger in his heart could fully ignite, he was alarmed by the terrifying aura rising from the eastern spectator stand. Hurriedly turning his head to look, Yu Haoran discovered that the expert who was emitting the terrifying aura was actually a beautiful young woman with an unparalleled charm. He couldn't help but stare blankly for a moment. Yu Haoran, it's her. She's the woman who used the overflowing water tender feelings secret technique on Wu Jingjun. Faling, who had also detected the terrifying aura, immediately shouted excitedly at Yu Haoran after careful observation and identification. Impossible! After hearing Faling's reminder, Yu Haoran's first reaction was that it was impossible. This was because not only did he know the true background of the beautiful young woman in front of him, he was also very clear about her own excellence and strength. To be honest, Wu Jingjun didn't even have the qualifications to carry her shoes. How could she possibly fall in love with Wu Jingjun? Yu Haoran, do you know her? Faced with Yu Haoran's doubts, Faling immediately asked. Faling, this woman's surname is Zhongli, and her name is Shuiqin. She comes from a very terrifying family in the eastern region. Faced with Faling's questioning, Yu Haoran nodded his head and explained. In my previous life, I met her in the periphery of the demon god's ancient tomb. I once saw with my own eyes how she easily defeated the Yushu Temple's Heavenly Temple Master and the Carefree Valley Master. Defeating Qian Tianyu, who was known as the #1 loose cultivator, in 5 moves, defeating the Yushu Temple's Heavenly Temple Master in 7 moves, and defeating the carefree Valley Master in 10 moves. The terrifying strength that Zhongli Shuiqin displayed in the periphery of the demon god's ancient tomb had left a very deep impression in his heart. Zhongli Shuiqin. Hearing Yu Haoran mention the surname and name of the beautiful young woman, Faling vaguely felt a trace of familiarity. She couldn't help but recall carefully. Who on earth dared to use the green-eyed black cat beast, which contains the soul-cleansing and spirit-devouring poison, to secretly attack my husband? Zhongli Shuiqin, who exuded a terrifying aura, directly rose into the air. Then, she looked at the countless experts in the stands around, her eyes stirring with monstrous anger that could erupt at any time. In the face of Zhongli Shuiqin's question, even the heavenly demon sect's master Yuan Sangxiong, the Yushu Temple's three calamities quasi, Emperor Wu Realm Supreme Elder, and the Zhou family's patriarch Zhou Yuz didn't dare to raise their heads to look directly at Zhongli Shuiqin, who was floating in the air. After hearing the familiar voice, Wu Jingjun, who was using the secret technique to reverse nourish and break through the state of mind, hurriedly raised his head to look at Zhongli Shuiqin, who was floating above the east stand. A trace of panic immediately flashed in his eyes. Then, he looked at Yu Haoran in the arena. Guilt and worry immediately replaced the panic of Wu Jingjun, and thoughts of struggle emerged in his heart. If senior brother knew that he had provoked such a woman when he was training in the military palace, would he look down on him from now on, or even not pay attention to him in the future? If senior brother knew that he couldn't help but promise Zhongli Shuiqin to marry him, would he be so angry that he would expel him from the prince's mansion? After all, Zhongli Shuiqin was a widow who had lost her man. She was a woman who should be loyal and filial to her husband's family and keep her chastity. Yu Haoran, how much do you know about the Zhongli family? After carefully recalling, Faling finally found detailed information about the surname of Zhongli in the deepest part of his memory. At the same time that he understood the strength of the Zhongli family, the worry that emerged in his heart made him immediately ask, Faling, you also know that I was limited by my cultivation and strength in my previous life, so I don't know much about some of the top families in the Tianxin continent. I only know that the Zhongli family is a powerful force that even the Yushu Temple doesn't dare to provoke easily. Yu Haoran shook his head and replied, Yu Haoran, in total, the Middle Ages, which lasted more than 6 million years, there were countless experts who achieved the status of supreme martial artists. Only 3 supreme martial artists existed forever, and no one could challenge their supreme martial artist status. Chapter 1474. In the ring of the hidden dragon fortress in the central region. After 3 years of training, Yu Haoran had come into contact with the experts of the family clans of different generations, and then combined with some of the secrets that the Tower Spirit had intentionally and unintentionally revealed, Yu Haoran had a completely new understanding of the division of martial arts cultivation realms. In fact, martial arts cultivation was divided into 4 stages. The first stage was the early stage of martial arts cultivation. It was divided into 3 stages: martial disciple, martial warrior, and martial master. The second stage was the middle stage of martial arts cultivation. It was divided into 3 stages: martial ancestor, martial king, and martial emperor. The third stage was the later stage of martial arts cultivation. It was divided into 3 stages: martial saint, martial venerable, and Emperor Wu. The fourth stage was the peak of martial arts cultivation. It was divided into 3 stages: martial god, supreme, and immortal. Since the ancient times, the Middle Ages, and the recent ancient times, there were legends about how difficult it was to break through the martial god realm, supreme, and immortal. After the end of the recent ancient times, due to the continuous deterioration of the environment, the Heavenly Way's broken rules and restrictions on martial arts cultivation caused it to be more difficult for martial artists to break through the cultivation realms. Therefore, there were legends about how difficult it was to break through the martial venerable realm Emperor Wu, and Martial God realm. As for the supreme and immortal realms, they had long disappeared. Therefore, the supreme was a brand new realm of martial arts cultivation. It was also a title that symbolized the supreme status. For example, the reason why the four great guardian families were able to maintain their complete inheritance and peak strength after the destruction of the ancient times, the Middle Ages, and the recent ancient times. They were the absolute overlords of the mysterious heavenly continent. The reason was that the blue dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise in their ancestral bloodline were the supreme divine beasts of the ancient times. For example, the Shang clan and the Zhou clan from the Middle Ages were ambitious to dominate the entire Tianxian continent and recreate the glory of the Middle Ages. However, the inheritance of the bloodline of the martial god realm would only weaken the power of their inheritance. Their dream of recreating the peak of the Middle Ages would only remain in their imagination. For example, the Zhongli clan that Zhongli Shuiqin belonged to was the supreme evergreen, who was known as the strongest supreme in the Middle Ages. The eternal green supremacy was famous during the period of destruction of the ancient times. He was one of the oldest supreme being experts during the Middle Ages. Eternal Green Supreme, Xingtian Supreme, Laozi, the number one alchemist, were the strongest supremes who had the highest chance of entering the immortal realm. After hearing Thaling's detailed introduction of the Zhongli family, Yu Haoran's envy of Wu Zhongjuan's fortuitous encounter was replaced by deep doubt. As one of the three most powerful supremes in the Middle Ages, the descendant of the eternal green supremacy, Zhongli Shuiqin, who had the hope of becoming a ninth-grade martial god and a supremacy in the future, what exactly did she see in Wu Xingjun that she did not hesitate to use her own primordial qi to perform the tenderness technique to help him quickly break through his cultivation and strength? Moreover, according to Zhongli Shuiqin's present attire, it was obvious that she was not a girl waiting to be married, but a young woman who was already married. Then, why did she fall in love with Wu Xingjun? Yu Haoran, the reason why Zhongli Shuiqin fell in love with Wu Xingjun is not important. What you really need to consider now is whether they can be together. After hearing Yu Haoran's question, Thaling could not help but shake his head and remind him with a serious expression. Because clans with the supreme being bloodline attach great importance to the purity of their inherited bloodline and pay attention to marriage of equal social status. Clans with the strongest supreme being bloodline, like the Zhongli clan, are not inferior to the four great guardian clans in terms of status and influence. Then, only forces at the level of the four great guardian clans can form marriage alliances with them. If you agree to the relationship between Wu Xingjun and Zhongli Shuiqin, then in the near future, you will not only have to bear the terrifying oppression of the Zhongli clan, but also the monstrous wrath of the four great guardian clans. After hearing Thaling's reminder, Yu Haoran suddenly felt the pressure on his shoulders suddenly increase, so heavy that he could not breathe. Seeing that no one in the stands dared to admit the sneak attack just now, Zhongli Shuiqin's anger grew as she looked directly at the six venerables above the central square, especially Peng Yanfei, who was sitting on the purple dragon throne, because she suddenly thought of her sweetheart, who, in order to support her most respected senior, had come out to threaten all the contestants, and was bound to offend Peng Yanfei, who was deliberately targeting Yu Haoran. Then, as the hall master of the Five Regions' Hidden Dragon Fortress, Peng Yanfei, who was at the peak of the ninth-grade martial venerable, was suspected of the sneak attack, and also had the strength to control the blue-eyed black cat beast. The punishment of the Hidden Dragon Fortune and Yu Haoran's easy 84 victories made Peng Yanfei, who was using healing, feel very irritated. Now, being stared directly by Zhongli Shuiqin's murderous gaze, Peng Yanfei, whose irritation was replaced by anger, suddenly opened his eyes and shouted at Zhongli Shuiqin. Zhongli Shuiqin, immediately return to your seat. Otherwise, don't blame me for using the reason of breaking the rules of the competition to expel you from the Hidden Dragon Fortress. After hearing Peng Yanfei shout at Zhongli Shuiqin, The few top experts from the east and central regions who knew the origin of the Zhongli clan could not help but change their expressions. They looked at Peng Yinfei with a trace of pity and mockery. Peng, did you secretly control the blue-eyed black cat beast with a soul-cleansing and soul-devouring poison to attack Wu Jingjun? Ignoring Peng Yinfei's shout, Zhongli Shuai-Qin walked through the air towards the central square and questioned him with a fierce expression. He's just a martial saint, Aunt. If I wanted to take his life, it would be as easy as flipping my hand. I wouldn't need to use such a despicable method like a sneak attack. Peng Yinfei replied with a disdainful expression in the face of Zhongli Shuai-Qin's fierce questioning. Papa. But just as his contemptuous reply fell, a slender, jade-like hand appeared in front of him in an instant and rewarded him with 2 slaps on his face, left and right. The crisp sound of a slap to the face caused several peak experts who were familiar with the Zhongli family's background to rejoice in their misfortune. However, the countless spectators and contestants who did not understand the Zhongli family's strength were dumbfounded. Peng Yinfei, who was suddenly slapped in the face, first reached out to touch his burning cheeks with a look of disbelief in his eyes. This was because he could not believe that there was actually someone in this world who dared to slap him in the face. Moreover, it was 2 resounding slaps in the main square. However, the burning pain caused him to gradually wake up from his shock. Following that, rage quickly rose in his heart, causing him to roar and directly charge at Zhongli Shuai-Qin. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.